Hey, Audio Road listener, what is your profit per mile? How about your cost per mile? Or even your bottom line? Stop driving blind and know your numbers. Profit Gauges is absolutely simple bookkeeping specifically for owner-operators. Have instant access to business and tax reports that will help you increase your profits and keep your money in your pocket where it belongs. Sign up for Profit Gauges today and take advantage of our 30-day free trial. Know your numbers and master the journey. Visit our website at letstruck.com or call our Tribe Care Team at 855-800-FUEL. That's 855-800-3835.
Your money, your taxes, your truck, and your road to success in the trucking industry. This is Trucking Business and Beyond, the show that puts the money where it belongs, back in your pocket.
Good morning, you beautiful bunch of fuckers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Monday, November 25th. We are here live. It's time for a Monday free-for-all. Brent Hutto is here with me. We'll talk about rates, lanes, and volumes and what's going on in the world of trucking. We'll also take your calls and answer your questions, so we're going to open up those phone lines right now. Jump in and join us. 855-950-3835 or hit that call now button on your app, and we will get to those calls in just a minute. Brent, good morning.
Well, good morning, KR. You know, I love a good free-for-all on a Monday, especially after we had such a fun weekend and my Auburn Tigers won. So
Well,
that's
there you
always
go.
a fun thing. So
There you go. I was thinking about the win we had on Friday. I thought that webinar went awesome.
Oh my goodness, KR! I was hoping you'd want to kick off and start talking about that, because that was what a great way to go into the weekend with recording the Trucking Mastery series that you and I are working on, certainly led by your expertise. And but just talking about the big picture and navigating the road to success and everything. So that fired me up for the whole weekend. I think it even fired up my Auburn Tigers, and that's why they won. So, it was so much fun.
You know, the funny thing is, a lot of people that nobody hears from put a lot of time into that in the background. Lisa worked on the deck, people from Truck Stop. There, a lot of work went into all of the visuals, the presentation itself, just everything about it. You and I, the two presenting, maybe had one or two meetings for a couple minutes and, said, well, we'll do this. It went so well. It was so smooth. We didn't practice it. We didn't, I figured, well, we'll get the hang of it. We got 6 of these to do. But I was just really pleased with how smooth it went. And, we don't have a lot of time. These are an hour total to cover a pretty big topic and then get to some questions. And, we managed to finish it within our hour, and I think it went really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you learn a lot of things along the way. And for those listening in, Kevin and I don't practice a lot because we're not continuing to study and continue to look at things. And Kevin looked at the deck. He knows the content and materials. I knew what I needed to do on my end, but because you and I worked together for so long, we kind of know. And we've talked about this. These are things that you and I have talked about for decades on continuing to want to produce, information and continued learning inside the marketplace for those the owner operators that have been in there for a while, or they're just starting out, or the ones that are, say, leased owner operators, even company drivers that are looking for one day to do that. And so, it's one of those things. But you talk about people behind the scenes, and since it's we got to our Thanksgiving week, and we want to kind of continue to always be grateful. So many people on both sides, and the thing that gave me a lot of encouragement, KR, was watching the Let's Truck team and the Truck Stop team kind of work seamlessly together. Like it's a real team and a partnership, and that's hard because when your company and my company both, they have a heart to serve the owner operator. They have a heart to see them be successful. And so when you see that happen, and take place, it's really encouraging to me.
Yeah, I agree. It was it was fun to watch. It's a really fun program. There's a lot of good material in here. I think it's spread out over a period of time that allows you to absorb it. The other thing, I said that the teams worked on this in the background, that they created a hell of a workbook for this program too. Yeah, and that just went out today on the email. So everybody that attended will get that email today. And open that up and start filling out that workbook. That's the key to this whole program. Fill out that workbook.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, it's like this, man. There's only one person responsible for Kevin's success, and that's Kevin. And there's only one person responsible for Brent's success, and that's me. And there's only one person responsible for an owner-operator's success, and that's them. And so, man, take the time, invest in yourself. And I promise you, every time that I've invested in myself, and I've watched you do the same thing over the couple of decades we've been together, it pays off. It just pays off. And so if you want to be more happy, spend some time on investing in yourself.
Yeah, one of the things I'd love to see happen is I just read this is a topic I want to talk about, so we'll kind of transition into this.
Yeah.
The whole idea of broker transparency is on the table again. There's a listening session open. I don't know, the next 60 or 90 days, they're asking for comments. I am starting to get the feeling that if they decide on this before the end of this administration, and I think they're going to, I think we may get a rule that forces this. And the way it looks like this is going to shape up is that after the fact, nobody's going to know the rate prior to the transaction. That's the goofy part of all of this. After the fact,
seems like,
it looks like they're going to be automating this process that sends the documents to everybody involved after the fact. Let's play this out.
Who does that help?
What do we think is going to happen here? I'm not really sure what, I don't know what to expect. I can make a guess that every place I look where there is rate transparency like they're talking about here, rates always go down.
Right.
The more you know about the rate, the easier it is to just undercut the rate a little bit. And then the next person sees that and they can undercut the rate just a little bit. And it's like bidding sites. We end up with the lowest possible price. Great for the consumers.
Right.
This is awesome for the shippers. They're like the consumer in this case. This will drive their costs down.
After the way,
I don't. Every owner operator I know that has ever watched the show Shipping Wars or has used UShip, the platform, it's a bidding site.
Right.
And what do? They make fun of how cheap the rates are on those bidding sites. That's exactly what they're going to do with the entire market.
Yeah. Hey, KR, let me tell you something really, really interesting about what you just brought up about Shipping Wars. All right. So back in 2013, we actually did a little test partnership with the company that the group that produced Shipping Wars. In other words, it was the platform that produced that marketplace. We did a little testing with them, and we started posting their freight on Truckstop, and the owner operators just revolted against it because number one, it was a bidding war to the bottom. It was a race to the bottom, and in all the research I've ever done on owner operators, and we've done a lot of it I did with Overdrive, and I did even more of it on the logistics side with Truckstop. Owner operators hate that bidding process because part of it is like, I just don't want to bid against my fellow owner operator. That's one of it. The other thing is they don't win. There's not like a win in it. It's like, it is, look, every owner operator out there, this is so important. You work in a supply and demand marketplace that has high competition, high competition. So why would you want to allow a process into it that makes it even harder? I don't understand it.
Well, you'll also, if you listen, you'll also hear them make the claim. the rates are so low because of these owner operators that don't know how to run their business, and they're going to pull all this cheap freight, and then they're going to go out of business anyway. You're right. That's part of what happens. It happens in any open market, but you're making it easier for them. You're making it easier for the worst carriers out there to get freight because they can see the rate and go, oh, you know what? I can underbid that by a couple pennies. And here's the other thing.
Right.
We're just when you start this bidding kind of market, you're just admitting that the shipper here just wants the cheapest price. That's the only reason to have a system like this, where it's just this open bidding kind of thing, and everybody knows the price. You're just admitting at this point, hell, I don't care about service. I just want the cheapest price. That's not what you want to deal with when you're an owner operator. Let the mega carriers handle that kind of stuff. You need to be out building relationships and providing value.
And you take away your special weapon, which is service.
Right.
Your ability to service them like nobody's business. You're an owner operator. You're the most flexible business design in trucking, the most flexible. And so you can provide service like nobody's business to that specific load. And so you kind of take that advantage out of your hands.
So why do we think that making all these prices available is somehow going to make things better?
You know, I don't know. And I was just looking up on Overdrive Online where the article, because Alex Lockey, the editor there, has done a lot of reporting on this, and there's a couple things going on. Number one, he's done a good both sides reporting on it. There's a great article. So every owner operator out there, if you want to understand sort of like what does a broker think about this, go to an article that Alex Lockey did that speaks to a broker that he actually did it's a really well done piece on outlining how the broker sees this. It's done by a guy named Jeff Tucker, and I think you know Jeff, Kevin, and he's one of they're the oldest brokerage in America. So they've been around since, Moby was a minnow. Okay. So they've been through the whole thing, through deregulation, everything else. And it's a great article. And if you're an owner operator and you really want to understand why 371.3, and that's the regulation, 371.3, you want to understand why it's out there, go read that article and you'll understand it a little bit more. What I've heard, Kevin, is this. The rate is a part of it. That's a part of it. That this is what I've heard from owner operators, and I've heard from other players in the marketplace, that it's really more around like the contracts, that they want more transparency in the contracts, because the contracts have become so difficult for owner operators to sort of like just manage themselves and they want the business. They just sign the contract, and then the after effect of the contract, like the chargebacks, accessorials, and the freight not being, delivered in whole, even though the bill of lading was signed that it was delivered in whole. And so all these things that the owner operator has to deal with after they've actually finished and completed the load, and they're on to load the next 2 or 3 loads. So I've heard that there's more like need for like contract transparency than anything else.
Brent, if you go through this list, and Atri puts one out every year, they just put one out, and they go through the list of, here are the biggest problems in our industry this year. And they usually do a list from big carriers or from the carriers, the trucking companies, and then they do a list of drivers. It's funny that the two almost never match. They're not even close some years.
They don't. Yeah.
It's funny to watch. But yeah, I just don't understand this idea that by seeing more of this information, that somehow something is going to get better. Yeah, I have a problem with this just as a business concept. This is just anti-business. To need to know somebody else's rate or margin, that's just anti-business. I don't understand why we think this is going to get any better. What we really need, you and I talk about this all the time, we need more education. How many of these problems are actually solved by just having a good business model, the business model we talk about? This idea that,
there you go,
these contracts are so complicated that every time I pull a load, then I find out after the fact what's in the contract. Well, first off, if you're going to be in business and you're going to be signing contracts, you better either educate yourself enough to understand what you're signing, or you better pay an attorney to explain it to you. But there's a better way, and that is if you go to our model, a handful, 3 to 5 good brokers that provide the majority of your freight. You now know what that contract is. You can take as much time as you want with it, and you could negotiate it, right? This is all negotiable, everything in that contract. If you don't like something, you could negotiate it. But if you're trying to negotiate with somebody you've never pulled a load for before and this is your first time, well, good luck. But after you've proven your value to a broker, then you can go in and say, hey, you know what? This clause in here really isn't working for me. Let's talk about this. And then so many of the problems we see on this list every year, parking. There's an easy way to get control of parking in your own operation. Start running the same area, lanes, triangles, whatever you might put together, and that parking problem goes away. Because you find all those little places that you can park that you don't know about when you're in a new area. All these issues with brokers go away. Issues with collection go away. Issue with freight fraud. This whole big thing we're talking about, freight fraud, isn't the single best way to solve that to work with brokers or shippers we know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sure it is. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, look, the reason that relationships become really beneficial to you is because they become trusted. And when they become trusted, then it's really easy to transact across the board. You could even work with somebody and go, well, I mean, if you're an owner operator and you're working with broker A that you've worked with, say, 5 or 6 times over the year, you can say, we've talked about my operating cost. I can't run it for that. Do you have freight that I can run to make a profit at because of my structure? And so when you can talk to a broker about that, or even a shipper about that, it doesn't matter, both sides. If you can get business from either one, they're going to go, oh, well, I need you to be profitable because I need you to haul more than one load for me, right? So, I mean, yes, let's figure out what works. They'll work with you every single time. I've talked to hundreds of brokers that are happy to work with an owner operator that way.
Absolutely. So we're going to come back to education again. We're talking about the webinar series. My goal now, I talked about this the other day. I want to spend 90% of my day teaching. Whether it's here on the air answering questions, whether it's webinar series like we're working on, the CMC, all these the coaching program, this is what I want to spend my time doing. And here's why. So there's a discussion going on about this online, about the transparency issue. So I've just been reading it. And here's one of the comments. This is from one of my listeners. He could be listening right now. I'm not going to use any names, but he may recognize the comment. This, to me, tells us we have a huge education problem. So there's an analyst in there, kind of arguing the point on this and putting up some statistics. And Brent, this is the same kind of stuff we talk about all the time. Brokers touch less than 15% of all for-hire freight. That's a pretty small percentage. I'm even a little surprised by that. But who said this? I mean, you don't have to tell me who said it. You can tell me off air who said it, but I might question a little bit of that because brokers are now moving, on the for-hire end, they're moving not just spot market freight. There's a lot of contract freight that are moved by brokers, and it's not decreasing. It's increasing. Yeah, that may not be in this. Here's the point I really want to get to, though. While he was explaining this, he used the term supply exceeded demand. That's why the rate went down, which is absolutely correct. I don't even need to know the context. When I hear that statement, that is a correct statement. Well, here was the response. Supply exceeds demand with a question mark. You must mean too many middlemen, because any robust economy actually needs trucks. Nobody ever needed a broker. Nobody. Well, there's so many ignorant comments in here. I'm not even sure where to start. Supply and demand is not too many middlemen, although it can be. the number of brokers has an impact on this, but that's not
Sure does.
That's not the point. If you have too many brokers, you still have to look at the relationship between trucks and freight. The broker doesn't have a complete impact on this. It really does come down to the number of trucks and the amount of freight, not the brokers. The brokers are just in there moving some of this freight. But to think that to make a statement like this, you must mean too many middlemen. That is a completely ignorant statement about how this transaction even works, about how our own market works.
Right.
I don't understand how we can be so ignorant of how our own market works. Then my next question is, nobody ever needed a broker. Well, that may be true. Need is a pretty strong word. I look around at, 99% of the stuff I own in my life. I don't need any of it. Right? I mean, that's a weird word to use here. Nobody ever needed a broker. Doesn't matter if anybody needs them. The shippers want them. That's the thing that these people need to get their head around. It doesn't matter what you think about whether a broker should exist or not. That's not your choice. The shipper wants to use a broker, and they're going to. You have the option of trying to go directly to the shipper and saying, hey, look, let's cut out that middleman. Well, knock yourself out. Go try to make that sale. That's a tough sell.
Please do.
Yeah. That's a tough sell. My question to this person would be, if nobody ever needed a broker, then why do you use them?
Well, here would be my encouragement and advice to every owner operator or whoever might say, well, that's a true statement. I'd say, hang on. When you have a marketplace that is healthy, as trucking and freight moving in the United States is, and is big and is growing, what you want to see is more players coming into it, not less. Because in marketplaces where there is less competition, it means there's less opportunity.
Absolutely.
And you don't want that as a participant, as somebody who makes their living off of hauling freight. What you want is a marketplace that continues to grow.
Yes.
And so when you look at and I'm going to say this for every owner operator out there. Okay, there's like 4 million. Okay, I'll say that again. 4 million shippers in America. 4 million.
That's a lot.
Right? That's a lot.
That's a lot.
So,
that's a big number.
That's a lot. And so there's only about 15% of them that can try to move their own freight. And what I mean is they own trucks and they have a transportation department inside and they're trying to move their own freight out. And even those players they outsource some of it because they can't move it all themselves. These are really, really big players.
Right.
For the most part, you've got a marketplace that doesn't want to handle transportation because that's not where they make money. Transportation is a cost to them. It's nothing more than a cost. So to them, the best way they can manage the cost is the way they want to do it. And in the market we have today, they do it through contract carriers. In other words, large and medium, kind of medium size and some small, 100 truck fleets. They use those types of players on the really, really large manufacturing. But everywhere from the middle market and down, those all players use brokerage companies because it's easy for them to manage their transportation using a broker who can give them a set cost, give them the communication they need and the visibility they need on here's where my freight is. And they go, fantastic, my cost is X, and that's it. And I'm happy to do it that way. So this is why, and by the way, it's not getting smaller. The brokerage industry is not getting smaller. It's getting bigger. And it has since I came in the market in 2013, and it's been fundamentally grown tremendously since 95 when truck stop came in the market. So that just kind of goes against all sort of common thinking with the person's statement.
We've been trying to kind of teach economics as we go here. Economics is a really tough thing to get your head around. I'll go back to the book you recommended that I read, Economics in One Lesson. One of the major lessons there is the only way to grow an economy or to create more value, you either have to create an entirely new product or service, which we've seen many times. Computers changed our economy dramatically. It grows like crazy. So this idea that, well, well, if you give a secretary a computer, she can now do the job of 6 secretaries. We keep putting people out of business with automation, and that's what computers were. And yet we keep having more and more jobs. We keep growing this economy. And the other way is to create efficiencies. That's the way to grow revenue, to grow an economy. You have to be able to do something more efficiently. When I first got into the business, it was pretty common for even a small manufacturing company to have a fairly large shipping department. Like, it took up space in the building, and there were lots of people in that shipping department. Because when I first got into the business, we didn't have many freight brokers. Freight brokers prior to deregulation almost didn't exist. What you may have had was like a C.H. Robinson, which was really a produce broker, right? C.H. Robinson didn't start
That's how they started out. That's right.
As a freight brokerage. They started as a produce broker. We didn't have many freight brokers. That industry almost didn't exist. It was created because of deregulation. But what these manufacturing companies found was, look, we have this huge department. It takes up space and resources, and we have all these people we have to hire to do this just to move our freight. That's not very efficient. And every little manufacturing company had these huge departments to move freight. And with brokers, they said, hey, look, we get rid of this whole department, all of these people, all this equipment, all this cost, and all we have to do is call this broker and he'll move our freight for us. That's really efficient. And now you might have one brokerage moving freight for 10 small companies. The broker model in trucking became very, very efficient. And we should like that.
Well, I would think so, because, you know, if you want to go do all the work yourself in the negotiation, you want to take all the risk yourself and all that process and all those things, just remember that takes time. Time is part of your revenue. And if you can do it yourself and you can get freight that is like that, and then fantastic, and you can maintain it, then fantastic. That's great.
Absolutely.
But remember that the broker exists, so you don't have to invest that time into it. And so they take a percentage. The average broker rate in the marketplace, and this is published publicly by the Transportation Intermediaries Association, which is the broker association, it's about 14.4%. That's gross. That's not net. That's not what they make net, because they got to run their business too and pay their people and buy their technology and, you know, do everything in the process. You know, go sell the freight, to sell their services to a shipper, and then work with securing you to get to secure the freight, and they got to work with truck stop, and they work with other players in the marketplace. So just remember, they make about 14-15% gross, and then they got to net out of that, just like any other business. And net means that's the profit they take home as a business, as the owner of the business. So they're no different than anybody else. So it's just, you know, can you work with them in a profitable way? And it all comes back to, do you know your number? Do you know your cost for your operation? And can you work within in that paradigm? If not, hey man, absolutely go to the shipper and sell the business, because in the end, if you can do that, you've been around 10 years or 15 years, and you're, you know, super trusty in every part of the process, man, there's lots of places you can find shippers to shipper information to go sell them. Man, you and I have encouraged that all along. I mean, get some shipper freight, get some broker freight, and then fill everything else in off the load boards. And you should be, at the end of the year, you should go, man, it's been a great profitable year.
Yeah. One of my goals now is just to eliminate statements like this. I want to go back to the statement where he says, because any robust economy actually needs trucks. How do you even address that? Well, of course you need trucks.
A given.
My God, nobody has ever said we don't need trucks. What does this statement even mean? Of course we need trucks. What you don't seem to understand, the person making this comment, is the number of trucks matters. It matters. It absolutely matters. This is the whole equation. We have X amount of freight that needs to be moved, and there are X number of freight trucks available to move it. And really what we're talking about is a truck, a trailer, and a driver. That's what we've got to have here. But that number matters. To make a statement like any robust economy needs trucks, nobody needs brokers. It's just, I don't even know how to try to educate somebody like this. I don't know how to break through that mentality.
Yeah, for me, Kevin, it's look. Here's the thing. This is what the book Economics in One Lesson. This is what you need to think about in any situation. No marketplace, and I mean no marketplace in the world, is one-sided. There are two sides to every marketplace. So when you make a decision on one side, it affects the other side. When you make a decision on the other side of that market, it affects the other side. There's no one decision. Does this market need trucks? Absolutely. There's no doubt. Trucks move 80% of the freight in the United States, and man, do we love them for it. I mean, you saw the love for truckers during the pandemic when the stuff wasn't showing up at the stores. They love the trucks in the marketplace. But remember, there's two sides of the marketplace. The trucks just don't show up with freight in them all by themselves, and it just magically appeared like Santa delivered it. You have manufacturers who need it moved, and these manufacturers, when their goods go from their manufacturing facility to the market, and that can be to a warehouse and then to the market or straight to market, the transportation of that is just a cost to them. It's not their profit margin. Their profit margin when their good gets to market and sells.
Right.
All right. So you are part of the process of getting their goods to the market. So we need a marketplace that's very healthy on all sides, and that includes trucking companies, all sizes. That includes brokerages, all sizes. That includes shipping companies who are very, very healthy, because the shippers in America, and this is for every owner operator, please know this. You really want to look at the shippers and how healthy they are, because they are a reflection of the economy. They are the thing. When you look at how is gross domestic product doing in the United States, well, it's manufacturing. And because that manufacturing manufactures something based on the need of the American public or the want of the American public to buy it. And so you are in the middle of that process, and you want those manufacturers to be as healthy as possible because they move more freight. And so there's no one side that's just, you got to only have one side. You need all sides healthy, every single side.
Yeah, I'm afraid that this time, especially if this gets pushed through before the administration change, that this transparency thing might actually get some legs, and I hope not. I just don't see any good coming from this. Here's the thing. I'll just try to remind people. No matter how much they screw around with regulations and all this stuff, ultimately, the people who will survive and succeed are the people who know how to run a business. None of these regulations are ever going to change that. This is not going to help the people who are already ignorant about this topic. In fact, I think it just encourages them more to look at bad business practices. Oh, look, we made enough noise and we got this changed. Well, what did you really get changed? This is not going to help your business one iota. If you can't run your business successfully now, just knowing what the rate is after you've already pulled the freight, what good is that going to do?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm with you, and I didn't know that. I read it, and I was at FreightWaves last week and I kind of read through it when it came out and everything. I was like, okay, well, that's interesting the way they're looking at this thing. I didn't realize it was totally on the back end.
Yeah,
and
completely.
So all that's going to do is cause heartburn on the end, and in the end, go ahead.
Well, that's the way the original regulation was written. This is an after the fact thing. So they're not changing the regulation. They're just clarifying what they're going to enforce. And I'm getting the feeling that they want to automate this. That it's just going to be a part of the transaction, that after the transaction, the documents go to all related parties. I think that's what's going to happen here.
Wow. Well, here's the thing, if it goes upstream to shippers and goes downstream to the carrier, the person that's going to suffer the most is the carrier.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
The shipper is going to say, wait a minute.
Hey, we could move this cheaper.
You made 25% on that?
Right.
You know what?
Wait.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. Here's the thing that's not being said. When you're a decent sized brokerage, there is some of your freight you move at a negative. You lose money on it.
Absolutely.
And so here's what's going to happen. The shipper's going to look at all these exceptions and go, we're going to push back down on you, Mr. Broker, because you're going to have to lower the margins on these things, or there's going to be sort of like a whiplash effect. It's going to like, oh no, you have to pay me back because I overpaid you for that.
Right.
When not taking into consideration that there was 6% of the freight that broker moved for the whole month that they lost money on because they couldn't find a truck or they couldn't get it coordinated as fast or something fell off. And so they're just basically taking a bath on it.
Right.
They're losing $500 on a load or $600 or losing all of it because they had to double pay a truck because there was a problem. And so when I say the average they make is 14.4% gross, that's the average that they make. And that's all freight that they move. And so here's the thing. That shipper is going to push back down on that broker, lower the rate to the broker, and guess the broker's not going to have any choice but to say, this is all I can offer you, Mr. Carrier.
That's it.
No, I can't negotiate up anymore because I don't have any other margin in it.
You bring
that's not good for carriers, and that's the thing we don't want.
Right. That's what I'm trying to tell them, but nobody's really, they just want to know this number. They're just so focused on this idea that the broker's just ripping them off. All they want to do is see this number. They can't think of anything else. You bring up another good point. People who want this transparency always argue, well, if I buy and sell a house, I know how much the real estate agent made. If I buy and sell stocks, I know how much the stock broker
they work
made.
for you.
Well, there's so many problems with making this comparison. One, real estate is a professional to consumer transaction. We always protect the consumer in cases like this. That's one. In freight, it's a professional to professional transaction. You're a business. You don't get the same protection
business to business.
Consumers get. That's one. Here's another one. The real estate broker never, ever has to buy the house at a certain price, hoping they can sell it at a higher price with the risk of losing money. That never happens in real estate. That's a huge difference in this transaction. They do not take possession. They don't put their own money at risk ever. They just market a property. That's very different. Here's another big one. The real estate broker is never financially responsible for anything that goes wrong in this transaction. Whereas we know a freight broker can be held liable for an accident that happens on the road with freight they move. It's happened.
For sure.
Those are huge differences. So please stop the comparison between real estate brokers and stockbrokers. It's a totally different world.
Well, Kevin, one of the things, and the love for every owner operator, this is why I'm like, okay, guys, just educate yourself on this and understand the history behind it. If you go back before deregulation, that broker for the carrier, like in the example you just gave, where a real estate broker works for the buyer of that home, that person's actually trying to buy the home, and so you know the percentage you're going to pay them. And that's the way it used to exist back before deregulation, and that's when this rule became in effect.
Right.
Because it used to be that the transportation broker actually worked for the carrier, finding them freight. So that's why it's one of these awkward things where if you move forward in today's world, the carrier is actually a provider to the broker, so the broker is actually your customer.
Yep, right.
So it's not the same relationship, and so I can understand if it was the same relationship, that makes sense.
But it's not.
But that's why I just encourage everybody to educate themselves on it, and really work towards understanding what's going to work best for your business. Because in the end, that's all that matters. You can get complete transparency in this market, and if it hurts your business, guess what? You lost. You lost in it. So the thing is that you really need to focus on, and I've had several conversations about this, about the idea of the whole contract issue, really understanding the contract that you're signing. And to me, as I look at this sort of picture out there for owner operators and anybody that moves full truckload freight, it's really the contract that can cause you the most headache. It's not whether or not you're signing for the right rate, because you should know your number and you should know whether or not you can make a profit on something. But it could be the contract, because then you've delivered the goods. Somebody signed up on your bill of lading, and you're waiting to get paid, or you got paid, and then there's a charge back on something because something that happened 2 or 3 weeks or a week after you delivered the goods. So this is where the bigger issue is.
And this is where relationships come in. That's why we talk about this.
100%.
I'll go back to this idea that this issue of transparency that so many people are so latched onto, like it's going to solve everything. solves nothing for the owner operators and small carriers that are struggling. Nothing. This is not going to help
it doesn't.
one truck owner stay in business. Not one. This isn't going to have that kind of an impact at all. In fact, it's more likely to have the opposite impact. It's more likely that it may put somebody out of business. So in that case, you know what? If you want to keep screaming about this, then bring it on. The people who know how to run a business will still be here succeeding. It's the people who don't know how to run a business that are at most risk here.
Yeah, well, and you know what? That's in any industry.
Yep.
You know, I know we had on Andrea Johnson, our Chief Revenue Officer, last week, and we talked about her previous business she was in. She was working with small restaurants.
Yeah.
And if you don't know your cost to run a restaurant, you're probably not going to be a restaurant very long, because that's a tough business. If you don't know your cost as a truck business operator and owner, it's a pennies business.
This is a tough business.
It's a penny, small percentage business, and if you don't know that, it's going to be hard to run it. So this is why this is why you and I became friends so many years ago, because we both saw it. You educated me on it. I started seeing the problem. I'm like, I love owner operators. I want owner operators to make as much money as possible. They're like the epitome of the American dream, of chasing their dream of owning their own business. And so we've got to get them to the point of like understanding how to make money, how to make more money in their business, or consistent money in their business, so they can still do what they love to do, which is to haul freight and be a great patriot to our country. So I'm all for it.
All right. What do you say we take some calls to see if we can help some people?
Well, get ready. You broke it loose.
That's
so
right.
These ought to be great phone calls.
That's right. Let's do it. Let's go California to get started. Mike, welcome to the program.
Hi. Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Brent. How are you both today?
Good. What's on your mind?
Doing great, man.
Well, I wanted to talk about the webinar from Friday. I really enjoyed it. I wanted to say how much I appreciate it to both of you. Appreciate both of your teams for putting this together, and also for Truckstop for providing the cost of this for us to have this at no cost to us to learn from it. I did enjoy the one thought I got from you, Brent, was about the 3 thoughts in your brain, the maximum you can hold, and to write them down. Write them down. And otherwise, you're just gonna have it, and you're forgetting it's gone. You're never gonna get it again.
Wait a minute.
So I really enjoyed that.
Wait a minute. I want to go back to the cameras on this call. We might have to replay this. I'm pretty sure that was my idea.
I think it was.
Yeah, I was listening. I thought it was Brent, but I did hear that thought really stood in my mind.
Both of us have said
this.
I think
it was Kevin that said that. He did say, "Hey, you got to write it down, or it kind of goes out the door." But
all right, that was my error. I was listening and wasn't watching the cameras. I was curious: is there a way that I can get a download of the audio of that to listen to in the future?
Yeah.
Oh, great idea. I'm sure we can convert it to audio. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I enjoyed it, but I like to be able to listen to it over and over again.
Well, I know you
keep learning from it.
You can replay the webinar somewhere, right? So we wouldn't even have to pull the audio out. You just replay the webinar and listen.
Just go back into the Zoom?
I think so. I think
it'll be published. It's published
somewhere.
We're making. You can just turn the video off, right?
Yeah, somewhere we're making.
Okay, yeah, because okay, so that's coming. Okay, so I did get the PDF file, downloaded that and have that on file to go through.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
I just wanted to be able to follow the audio with that PDF and go through it many times.
Yeah, I'll find out.
Smart move on your end. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my understanding that we're going to make this completely available after the fact. So if
absolutely,
if you can still access it, you'd be able to listen to it even while you're driving. Just play it without watching the video. I will.
Yeah, that was my first time ever using Zoom was Friday. I've never used Zoom before ever, so I've no idea what I'm doing.
Kevin, we're gonna and another part of the team on our end, a young lady named Maria. She's building a whole landing page.
That's what I thought.
Truckstop, and I'm sure we'll push that right over to Let's Truck as well, where you can just click the video and it'll just run in the background, and you can just listen to it as much as you want.
Perfect. Now that I'm registered with this webinar from Friday, do I need to register for the future 5 more upcoming over the year, or is it one and done?
I think once you're registered, you're going to get the emails every time we do this, and you'll just be able to log in.
You will.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I didn't want to miss anything. I want to make sure all right, good.
Mike, you made our day, man. Thank you so much. That's all I had.
I just wanted to just express my appreciation to the both of you, and again to your teams, especially the putting this together, making it work so well, like you said in your intro. And I liked the whole process of being able to look at the Zoom camera and then also listen to the audio. It was so easy. I was, it connected really easy right into it, and it just was flawless.
Well, thank you. The best way to learn is to watch it, hear it, and be able to write and follow along with notes. You absorb it. You absorb the most that way. So yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah. That's all I have for today. Thank you both of you. Have a good day.
You're welcome. All right. Brent, Lisa just dropped a note on my desk, so I'm going to check this. I believe if you go to letstruck.com right now, it's already available.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
Yeah, let me see. If you go to letstruck.com, click on events. You have to find event. Oh, there it is. I'm not registered. Maybe that's why I'm not seeing it. Hold on. Oh, there's events. It's up at the top. Trucking Mastery, episode 106. And there it is. Yeah, you can go watch it right now. So if you're not registered, it'll take you to a registration page. Just fill out some quick information, hit register. That will put you in the pipeline, so you'll get all the future events, but it also gives you access to the one we just recorded. It's already up, so you can go listen to that. And then one other thing, while I'm taking a break, we're going to grab another call here. Phone lines are open, by the way. Jump in and join us. 855-950-3835. It is a free-for-all. We'll talk about anything you want. Real quick, while we're waiting for some calls to come in, Brent, you know we have our own product called Mind Fuel, right? You may not know that.
Oh, that's a new one.
Yeah,
tell me about it.
So Mind Fuel.
Mind Fuel. I love that. That's a great description.
Mind Fuel, yeah. So it replaced a product that we were buying from somebody else and reselling. We used to sell Brain Octane from Bulletproof.
I remember that one.
Yeah, so Mind Fuel is exactly the same as Brain Octane. We try to be really upfront with people. There's nothing proprietary about this product other than the name and the label. Everybody that sells this product, Pure C8, it's all the same. It's like a commodity. I can buy this stuff by the tanker load, and it's all the same. So what we were able to do, and the reason we created our own product, was we were having issues getting enough of this. Every time we wanted to order it, Bulletproof would say, sorry, we can't fill that order. You've got to wait. And we just weren't able to get enough of it. And our margins weren't very good. So we just went out and created our own. We tell people it's the same. It's exactly the same. It's not any better. It's the same. It's just a commodity. But I love this product. Mind Fuel is it's a derivative of coconut oil. Coconut oil has 4 different fats in it. I don't want to go too deep into the science. But if you isolate one of those fats, C8 is how we identify it. C8 doesn't need to be digested. It actually goes right from your small intestine straight to your liver and produces ketones and energy. That's the whole reason, to use this. And we call it Mind Fuel because your brain thrives on ketones. When you start producing ketones, which is what happens in a ketogenic diet. I mean, that's the whole point of a ketogenic diet, is to get your body to produce ketones. They are an energy source, and our brain thrives on ketones. So that's why it's referred to as Brain Octane Mind Fuel. This goes in my coffee every morning. This is part of the NDK coffee. The reason I'm talking about this is because we're running a special. If you buy a 5-pack, you get one free. So that's a hell of a deal.
This is like a Black Friday precursor, huh?
Yeah, something. So Mind Fuel.
Well, I'm interested. How much is the 5-pack?
I have no idea. If they don't put it on my note, I don't know, and they didn't put it on my note. I just know if you buy 5, you're going to get 1 free.
Well, all right, I got it. Well, that's interesting. It's funny as I get older and older, and this is kind of goes back to Mike's point we called in, and I really appreciate Mike calling in about the webinar. It's such a appreciation for people to say thanks for the work and
nice.
Thanks for caring about our business. As I and it kind of goes back to what Mike said. When you had advised the entire webinar to, if you get 3 things, write them down. Write everything down.
Yes.
Write your. I think what Mike was talking about was when I talked about writing down your goals. Writing down, he may have just kind of crossed over between what you were saying and what I was saying, because I said write down your personal and business goals. Your 5-year, and then put them up where you can see them every day. And but let's go back to the reason you write things down is because as you get older, you get a lot more information in your head. You can't process it. You don't remember it. You want to remember it. So this minefield thing seems like something at 57. I'm 57 years old. Hey, man, I'm all for anything that can make my brain continue to work as well as it can.
I called this, and I still do, my secret weapon. The first time I experienced this way back when. Here's an interesting thing, and I don't know if a lot of people know this. I actually experienced what was called bulletproof coffee several years before I even got interested in the health side of things.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, so here's how that happened. Dave Asprey, who started Bulletproof, the company, he's got a great story. Both of his parents were rocket scientists at
oh, wow.
What's the big rocket research facility in New Mexico? Los Alamos? Is that it? There's some big.
Los Alamos also.
That sounds right, but I don't know if it is. White Sands.
Yes.
I think there might be a missile range.
It's one of those. Yeah.
I
mean, the one I know is the Marshall Space Flight Center up in Huntsville, where my wife's dad worked for NASA. So that's a lot of rocket research there. But that's rockets going to the moon.
Yeah.
It's also there's also an arsenal there for rockets as well. So.
Yeah, both of his parents. So obviously some fairly smart people. Dave himself was one of those 20-something internet millionaires. He made his money in early times of the internet, but he was really unhealthy. Got up to 400 pounds, had every health issue you could imagine, and realized making all this money doesn't do you much good if you're sick all the time. And he decided he was going to spend as much money as he had to figure out why he was sick and how to figure it out. And he traveled all over the world. He actually came up with the idea of bulletproof coffee he was way up in the mountains with the yak herders. Yeah, somewhere over on the other side of the world. And they live up there
where the monks are.
12,000 feet. And he said he got up in the morning and they would drink this really strong black tea with yak cream in it. And he said that it was the first time he felt different because he consumed something other than like alcohol or something like that. He said he felt the difference. And after several days of it, he said his energy levels had changed, his thought processes had changed. So he went and figured out why. And it turns out it was just all the good fat and the caffeine together are really good for your brain. And then it turns out it's about ketones. So that's when he figured out, well, if we take this one specific fat, we create even more ketones faster. That's where this whole thing came from. But he was just, and now you look at him, now his goal, he's no longer 400 pounds. He's really healthy. He's been doing this for about 15 years or so now. Now his goal is to live to be like 175 years old or something. He's a biohacker, and he believes he's going to live to 150 or whatever. So it's just an interesting story, but that's where the whole mind fuel thing comes from.
Right. Well, anything we can do to help our minds continue to operate the way that we want them to. You know, if you've gone through anything like I've gone through the last 10 years, which is watching both of your parents. My dad had vascular dementia. Part of that was contributed to that he was a professional football player and getting hit in the head, which is not something that your head's not designed to take licks.
You're right.
And now my mother has what I would call prominent dementia. I mean, she still knows who we are in our family, and so we still have a wonderful time with her. She's super sweet, but she, you know, her short-term memory is just really difficult for her. You know, if you've experienced this, you've lived it, then you kind of start thinking, both my mom and dad have had dementia, and I came from them. Okay, so how much of this is hereditary? How much of this is something I can actually have an impact on? So I'm,
help you with that?
I'm as curious as anybody else, and everybody should be, you know, because it's your life. You know, like I said, again, the one person that's directly involved in your life is you.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely.
For it.
Well, I can help you with how much is hereditary. As far as we know right now, none.
Well, that's good to hear.
There's no gene we can point to and say, Brent, here's the gene that caused your two parents who came from two totally different families and two totally different genetic backgrounds. There is no gene that we could identify that would say, oh, look, you have this gene that's going to cause you to be, a higher likelihood of getting dementia. It doesn't exist. It's lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know. Kevin, I am going to have to drop in about 5 minutes because I've got a couple podcasts to get ready for. Can I give an update on where the marketplace is?
Let's do that. Yep.
Let's do it. Fantastic. I always want to make sure I'm bringing the numbers because I know that that over these years we've been doing this. That when I go to trade shows, I get owner operators, and I get small fleet owners, I get big fleet owners that go, "Hey man, I really appreciate what you, Kevin, bring the numbers." You know, all right. So let me just say this: I just got back from Freight Waves last week, and there's every sort of player in the market, and maybe there's one out of about the 8 or 9 that kind of talk about where the marketplace is going and shifting. Is every one of them is more optimistic than they are pessimistic. So they're kind of more encouraged than they are discouraged about the market. So let me just put that in every owner operator's head that your rates inside of transportation are going to continue to modulate up. And what I mean by modulate, they're going to move up slowly. All right, there's not going to be a big pandemic crazy thing unless something happens. But, you know, we got a new administration in that's pretty conservative. And so they're going to probably have less regulations that go on that's going to fight against trucking than more regulations that may make trouble. Like, for instance, speed limiters, probably not going to be, this is not a definite, but probably not going to be talked about much in the next 4 years. So there's nothing that's on the horizon other than the drug and alcohol clearing warehouse, which kind of continues to take truckers out of the marketplace. And I don't mean they're doing it. The testing is doing it because, you know, if you get tested and that's the way it goes. And I think the recent one was 178,000. So just in general, but there's more optimism about the marketplace is going to have a better 2025 than you had 2024, than you had 2023. So you're seeing sort of an upward movement at a normal pace. And this is what's important. You're in a supply and demand marketplace. That's important. It will track along the gross domestic product of the United States. Over the last 24 months, we've looked at about 2% to about 3.2% growth in our economy, the U.S. economy. So it's been in a maintenance mode and a tiny little bit of growth mode. Well, it's kind of what trucking's done in the last 24 months. A maintenance mode, once it corrected back to normal, growing out. All right, so just know that as an owner operator, the rates aren't going to go up tremendously, but they are going to come and get more healthy for you as we move into 2025, and they're going to continue to move up as the market kind of dictates. And that's contract freight, that's the spot market freight, that's hot shot freight, that's, you know, all the freights in the market. So what we're seeing in trucking, so if I'll just give you some feedback. 2 weeks ago, the marketplace was at 225 overall per average of all the freight on truck stop, 225 per mile. Well, it went down to 223 2 weeks ago. No, 3 weeks ago it was at 225. Then it went down 2 weeks ago to 223. Last week it went back up to 225. Now that's all in, all freight. But let's look at the specifics. Van freight went from $1.95, increased 2 cents week over week, to $1.97. Well, if you're operating at $1.25 to $1.35, but that's without paying yourself, you can make a profit on that. I hope that would be my hope for you. Other than flatbed, stayed even at 223, and refrigerated actually went up 10 cents over the week, which refrigerator's been kind of going up and up and up for weeks now. So it kind of continues to increase. Load availability kind of week to week has been about the same, so it didn't change much. It's a little bit below normal, but we're measuring load availability much more strictly than we've ever done in the history of truck stops. So we're very strict about how we measure it, but it's been about the same. It's just a little bit below normal. So it's kind of in just a range. Remember, we're going into the holidays. Things happen. There was the big push season building up to the holidays, and we are seeing some seasonality, which is good. So that's a good thing. Now, here's the cool thing, Kev. Here's the cool thing. The sonar measurement that I always tell everybody to look at is the outbound tender reject index. So that's contract freight. How much contract freight is being renegotiated? So that's what a reject is to me. They say rejects. I call them renegotiations.
Yeah.
So last year at this time, the rejects were 3.88%.
Okay.
Look, 5% is like the normal. If it's below 5%, there's not more freight coming in the spot market where owner operators were. If it's above 5%, the marketplace continues to get more freight into it. This past week, it was today, it's at 6%.
And
it has been at above 5%. It's been above 5% for 6 straight weeks. That tells you there's more freight is being rejected by the contract players and is going to go into the spot market. That's good for owner operators. It's really good for owner operators. So that's kind of the update on the marketplace.
Excellent. It's all good news. We seem to be getting that from just about everywhere too. The one thing I want to point out is when you talk about it's going to continue to go up. I try to explain this on the stock market, the real estate market. Markets that go up don't move up in a straight line. They move up and down, up and down.
Thank you for saying that.
But the overall pattern is up. That's why you had this week where, we were at 225, then we went to 223, then we went back to 225. The rates will pull back. They'll pull back for all kinds of reasons. It's a very dynamic market. But overall, we should be watching this pattern where we are climbing out of the bottom. And just about everywhere I look now, people are optimistic that we are truly climbing out this time.
Yeah, for sure. And so thank you so much for bringing that up, because in the marketplace, what you want to look at if you're an owner operator, if you look at this stuff. And so when I talk about something, remember this, it's about directionals. Which direction is it going? But any marketplace is going to have an advance for a couple of days and a retreat for a day, and an advance for a day and a retreat for 2 days. But what you're looking at is where is that line going up and to the right?
Yeah.
Is it flattening, or is it going down and to the right?
Yeah.
So what it's doing and has been doing year over year, 2023 to 2024, it's been up and to the right. Now look, it's slow, and I know it's not great, but there's still plenty of freight out there to move. There's still opportunity to negotiate, work those relationships, become better friends, better business associates. Realize that the broker is your customer, just like the shipper would be your customer, and treat them like a customer. And anytime you treat somebody like a customer, it doesn't matter where you are, it seems like things work out for the best.
I agree. All right, Brent, we will let you get on with your day. I know you got a lot going on. We'll do this again. Are we here next week? Yeah, we're here next week.
Fantastic. Well, happy Thanksgiving to everybody at Let's Truck, all the listeners of Let's Truck. I am grateful for my relationship with you, Kevin, with Lisa, Diesel, and everybody else, Brittany and Angie, and Aaron, and everybody else that's there. It's one of the most beneficial relationships I have, because not just because of the friendship. That's the personal part of it. The business part of it is you guys all have the same heart helping owner operators, just like I do, and just like Truck Stop does.
I love that. I'm not going to attempt to name all the people at Truck Stop.
Good luck.
That would take a little too much time. We will let you get on with your day. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you next weekend.
You got it, brother. Thanks, KR.
Take care. All right. Phone lines are open. I'm going to get to some calls. I'll hang out here as long as you've got calls coming in. When the calls dry up, I'll wrap this up today. I don't expect to get a whole lot of work done this week. This is just one of those weeks. A lot of people take more time off. You're just not going to get a whole lot done. One of the things, I want to get some feedback from people. Are you guys seeing a lot of trouble with final mile shipping, mostly FedEx and UPS, because those are our two choices. We do a lot of shipping. We use the post office a lot because of rates, and the fact that post office works better for for drivers because they may not be home all the time to get packages. We because we do a lot of shipping, it seems like I notice more problems with the package side of things. But lately, I'm just seeing poor service out of FedEx and UPS, like stuff that's really, really late. Um, I was just wondering if it's just me. So I have a situation right now that not happy about. We're going to see what's going to happen today. I ordered, I think, a dozen chuck roasts because I'm going to can a whole bunch of beef. I'm just about out of canned beef, so I do one. I'll do multiple batches of canning. So almost 2 weeks ago now, I ordered the meat and had it shipped in because I have a certain farm I want it from, and they ship on Mondays. So I think I ordered it like Thursday or Friday. It shipped out last Monday. Now, as soon as it was shipped, it was picked up from the shipper, from the farm. It was taken to a hub in Minnesota somewhere, and immediately they put the status as not being delivered till today. They got the shipment last Monday, and I paid for overnight shipping. And immediately it went on the status of it's not going to be delivered till Monday. So I tried to get a hold of UPS, and they said, "Did you pay to have this shipped?" And I said, "Yes, I did." And they said, "Did you ship it yourself?" And I said, "No, I'm paying somebody else." And they said, "Well, we can't talk to you then." So now I got to call the farm. Well, it's a small farm. I mean, I actually talked to the farmer. And he said, "I'm so pissed about this." He said, "But this just keeps happening to us." He said they picked it up on Monday, and immediately it they put it in the system as it's not going to be delivered till today. I haven't checked to make sure it's coming in today, but that's 8 days now. I can't imagine this beef is going to be good. Now the farm says they pack a lot of dry ice, and they said they have had shipments 9 days and they were still okay. Now, they assured me if I open it up and I don't like the quality of the meat or what happened to it, they'll replace it. But the point was I wanted to can it over this last weekend. Just seems to me like we're seeing a lot more poor service in that final mile package stuff. Let's go to Wisconsin. Joe, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin, it's your local libertarian trucker again. How's it going today?
Good. What's on your? Hey, don't you like the new Libertarian Party?
Well, the ones that are starting to get with the program and like pushing for actual change instead of just having their little party meetings where nothing gets accomplished. Yeah. I think Angela McArdle's doing a great job.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's what's going on here. Now, I will say, I've been watching all of his administration is filled out now. All the cabinet positions have been chosen. 100%.
Yeah, there's a few I'm not super thrilled with.
I'll tell you the one
you can't have everything. Where would you put it?
I know. The one I'm really, really not thrilled about with at all, I think it's a horrible choice, was the Surgeon General.
Yeah, that was I didn't like that one either.
She's awful.
Maybe he's doing some kind of psyop thing where he's planning on putting her in there and then like moving somebody else so that he can vacate a position and fire somebody. I don't know.
I used to scream at her every time she came on TV during the pandemic. She was all about the shot.
Horrible.
Get your flu shot and make sure you get, your COVID shot and 2 boosters at the same time. And don't forget the mask. You got a mask. She was on the wrong side.
She was basically Fauci in a dress.
Exactly. That's a good way of putting it. She was Fauci in a dress. Why is she the Surgeon General right now?
I'm wondering if like he's trying to either that or maybe he's trying to pick a couple ones that he knows people won't be too happy about. But like if he gets the confirmations rolling, maybe he can get through some other ones that are more controversial for something else. But I think that one should have been too important. But then again, he was still behind the whole vaccine and all that. Even still to today, he still brags about it.
I know that one worries me, and I just think she was a horrible. Now I will say this: she has changed her mind, and she has explained why. But I still think she was just way too, follow the big pharma, script on everything is what it seemed like to me.
Okay. Well,
we'll see.
I mean, like I said, maybe she'll surprise us, just like the people that voted for Trump that were libertarians and are already on X screaming about how he's it's horrible already, and it's like he hasn't even gotten into office yet. Maybe he's got some plans. You know, give it a month or two after he's sworn in.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we're looking at an oil sample, right?
My very first one on that new to me truck that I talked to you and the guys over at Pittsburgh Power about when I swapped my old 390 rear 2011 Peterbilt for, and that guy just had to have the non-emission truck.
Got it. Now,
so this is my first one, and I think I might have messed up something when I was filling out the thing, and I'm pretty positive that because as soon as I got the truck, I had an oil change done immediately, and I told them 5W30 synthetic, and by looking at it, I have a funny feeling they charged me for one and gave me the other.
Yeah, if they charged you for synthetic, you're due a refund because they dumped 1540 Rotella in here. I have a feeling.
That's what I was thinking.
I think
I got to go find my receipt, and I'm going to take that and the oil sample back and be like, something doesn't add up here.
Yeah, it's not absolute proof, but it's pretty darn solid proof that the viscosity on
just the viscosity.
It's almost 14. That is right in line with T4. Any standard 1540 non-synthetic will be right there in that mid 13 to mid 14 range on viscosity, and T6 should be in the high 11 to low 12 range. So I'm pretty sure you did not get T6 or any kind of synthetic here. The good news is it's not a big deal. Oil, in a lot of ways,
basically just run it and run it until it's time to change it based on the science.
Correct. Yeah, I would not worry that it's not synthetic, and I wouldn't change it early to get synthetic in. I would get my life out of this oil. I would change this oil when the sample tells us to
concern was I start out of Wisconsin and go up to Green Bay and stuff like that when I start my week, and I'm sure you can guess how cold it gets up here in the winter.
It gets pretty darn cold, yeah. If you've got a real cold snap coming, I might change it, but probably not. If we're going to be
I can probably just run the APU for a little bit and let it warm up the block.
I would get at least 25,000 miles out of the soil. You're probably going to get a lot more than that, but I would make sure that I got at least 25,000. Now, if I can't imagine that the truck stop is going to look at this oil sample and go, oh, yeah, you're right, we put the wrong oil in and change it for you. If they do, great, but I don't see that happening.
All right. But since it's the minute I got the truck, the first thing I did before I got the oil change was I got the OPS, had it installed, and I've been running max mileage and Flashpoint since the minute I got it. And 800 miles before I pulled the sample, the knock sensor and the thermostat went out and died on me. So I don't know if that might do something that would change the sample in some way, because the thermostat was running at like 120 degrees for the last 800 miles before I had it changed out.
8,000 miles probably wouldn't make any difference in an oil sample. So the 800 miles, here's what I can tell you. If we take away the yellow mark on the viscosity, this oil sample is a 0. A total zero. There is nothing to talk about. This is a really clean sample.
Okay, so everything's turning out good. I'm guessing
really
that the NOx
good.
sensor was probably just from them not putting anything in it for 400-some thousand miles.
Right. Yeah, this engine is tuned well. Everything about this looks really good.
Okay, well that takes away my little heart palpitations that I was having looking at it and trying to figure it out. Now, is there something, because it mentioned something about the filter or something type or something like that I was missing? Is that something do I just put in OPS or because I'm pulling it directly from there when it's warm.
Say the question over again. You broke up a little bit, my headset.
Oh, they mentioned in the email that I didn't, because I didn't know what to put for the the filter type or something or brand or something like that. So I kind of just left it blank.
All they're really looking for is whether or not you're running a bypass filter of any kind.
I checked that, but it didn't have a spot asking for which one.
That's all that matters.
Oh, okay. So then when I send in my next sample at 50,000 miles on the oil, should I just acquiesce and just put down that it's 1540? I mean, 1530 or 1540? What do you think it is based on what you see? Just so I don't, does it really matter?
I wouldn't even bother trying to guess.
Okay. Well, I'll just write down 15W30 and hope for the best.
That'd be fine. Yep.
Yeah, I only used it in 25,000 miles. I think I used not even a half a quart of oil.
Oh, that's outstanding. Yeah, I think you've got this. This is really encouraging for a first sample. This is about as good as it's going to get.
Okay, and then in my manual, it has, because I was reading through the manual for when I change the filters, not necessarily the oil, and it gave me 3 different options. I just want to make sure I know which one to do, because one of them said to do it at 50,000 miles, and it gave a bunch of reasons. The one that I was looking at it gave fuel economy, and I'm getting 8.2 because recently I run the exact same route, but they've been adding a lot of extra stops to me. So if I don't go at least 68 all ways, then I can't make it back.
Okay.
Before I run out of hours on my 70.
Right. Okay. So what was the question?
When do I change the regular filters? Because it said one was 50,000 miles, one said 70, and one said 75.
So this is getting more and more confusing because, again, we're dealing with more proprietary systems now. All trucks and engines used to be so similar that we all changed our oil at the same time. I go back to 10,000 miles, what I remember in the beginning, and then
it was 15 when I started.
Yeah, then we moved up to 15, and now we have trucks that right out of the factory at 75,000 mile oil changes, which means their filters have to go 75,000 miles too. The problem I have with that is I don't want to go past 25,000 for samples, because if we get fuel dilution and we go 75,000 miles before we figure it out, we're going to do damage. If we get coolant intrusion, we're going to do damage. If we get dirt in the engine, and so we sample at 25,000, and that's when you should change the OPS filter. That's long.
That's what a little shy of that, but that's what I did. Because only reason I did it a little earlier than because I carried one with me, but the only reason why I did it a tiny bit early, it was 800 miles early, is because of that issue I had, and I wasn't sure if that was going to cause any issues.
In reality, we could say anywhere between 20 and 30,000 would be fine. That's enough.
Okay.
And that gives you plenty of leeway to get it done when it makes sense. Anywhere between 20 and 30. But
if the samples are coming back, good, obviously there's no warranty. My NOx sensor wasn't under warranty because I was 300 miles over my warranty.
Right.
So, should I just do it as long as the samples are coming back good, every third time I change the OPS filter, just change everything else?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to get to next, is change your OEM filters on whatever schedule the OEM tells you to change the oil. So if the OEM says you can go 75,000 miles on this oil before you need to even look at it.
Yeah, because I'm over 8 miles per gallon, so I meet that threshold.
Right.
So.
Right. So yeah, I would just change the OPS and sample every 25,000. Change the OEM filters based on their oil change interval.
Okay. All right. Well, at least that answers a bunch of questions for me, and we got to pick on the government a little bit. So it's been a productive day already for me.
Perfect. Love that. Thanks for the call. Let's go to North Carolina. Danny, welcome.
Hey, good afternoon, Kevin.
What's on your mind today?
You're out there.
Yeah.
Oh, just a couple things, and I made some notes so I don't forget. We had talked, I think last year, about reinstating my authority and decided to hold off. But I've been hearing, or you've been saying, talking with that Donald Brandt. Is that his name?
Donald Broughton.
Broughton, yeah. When are you going to have him on? I wanted to hear what he had to say about the economy coming up.
You know,
you don't have that scheduled yet?
We don't have it scheduled yet. I have several people we're trying to get in on the schedule. I talked with Governor, now Ambassador Huckabee. We're supposed to get him on. We're supposed to get Donald Broughton on. I have a couple people on the health side we're trying to get on. So the schedule's been really full, and now we're heading into the holidays, which just really screws up everything.
Oh yeah.
So well, we'll get him on.
You had said what he had said about 10 to 15 years, and I realize that's just his prediction.
Yeah, right.
But I've given it some thought, so I got a quote from the insurance that I got now, and it went up. It went from 17,000 to 24,000.
That's
which is
a big
$7,000
increase.
Holy
cow!
It is. So I did some quick numbers, just because I run less than 100,000 miles a year. So I used 90,000. That's kind of where I've been the last few years, and figured up, what's it going to be per mile. It was 26 cents, I think. So then I took away what I'm paying now, and it's still, up in the 16 or 17 cent a mile increase.
That's a lot.
And it is. So I'm like, I might just stay here. But what else do I got here? Oh, my year to date, or first 3 quarters, obviously last October, I think, was in there too. I took out anything that wasn't revenue from hauling freight. Like I've got referral bonuses, safety bonuses. I took that out because I know it's still revenue, but it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with hauling freight.
Right.
So pulling reefer, all miles, deadhead, everything, $2.10 a mile.
That's a good number today, really.
Yeah, it could be a little better.
Yeah.
I do have a little more deadhead in than I would like, but where I live at, sometimes, here in North Carolina is really hard to get out right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's usually pretty crappy getting out. Going west right now, if it's $1.25, you're doing good. So I usually go and just do short stuff north and back, but I put a post up on X there, kind of talking about earlier about the broker transparency and all that, and saying that they should just go back to being a company. Tell me how this sounds. You're talking about getting the rate from the broker after you haul the load. So you get a load, say it pays you $1,400. You find out later the broker got $2,000. Okay, and you were saying, you know, it's supply and demand. Next week, there's a lot of trucks. Now he's only getting 1,800. Well, you're going to be like, well, you got $2,000. I want 1,800. And I said, no, I'm only getting 18 this week. Yeah, BS. So you see where that's going to go back and forth?
Oh, it's going to be a mess, and it's not going to help anybody.
Yeah, it is.
It is not going to help anybody. These people who are struggling to run their business and believing it's all the broker's fault and this is going to fix things, not going to fix anything.
I know. And when you bring up relationships and lanes, and like you were saying, you know, you run the brokers, 4 or 5 brokers, you run the lanes, you find your parking, and all these problems go away. But you try and explain that to some of these guys on X, you probably know who some of the ones I'm talking about, that they want to point fingers, and it's comical in a way, but it's also pretty sad because, you know, they're not, and you can't say anything to them because they're going to push back. And I don't argue with people because it's kind of pointless, especially really on the internet.
Yeah, really is.
But
yeah, you know what?
That's about all I got.
The reason I don't totally ignore this, I ignore it about 90% of the time. And then occasionally I bring it up, but I bring it up in a way to educate people, not to just complain about it. The people who don't understand this and don't understand just basic business concepts of supply and demand, customer service, all those things, they're always going to struggle. They're always going to blame somebody else. They're always going to scream, the government's got to fix something. For the most part, I just ignore them. What I do once in a while, like I did today, I just use them to make a point. I mean, here's a point. They just don't understand basic business concepts. And how many years now have we wasted on this broker transparency thing? This has been going on for years. And it's not going to matter.
Oh, I know.
It's not going to matter. It's not going to help one of these guys a bit.
You try and explain to these guys, and you tell them, I said, here's what you do, and the problem solved. And then they find reasons. It's like
they find the exception.
You can explain to it.
Right.
Yeah. They're like, well, I did this and it didn't work. Yeah. That one trip didn't work.
Exactly.
How about the 100 other loads you did? So
right.
Anyway.
All right.
That's about it.
Good stuff. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Massachusetts. Todd, welcome.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing, man?
Good. What's on your mind today?
Truck rolled by. I got a question. I really wish this. First of all, a comment. I wish this was on X because I think a lot of people are going to be interested in what I'm going to say. I'm curious as hell about what you're going to say, and I'd like to know what you would do if you were still running your own fleet. And the question is, would you use, and what do you think about these fucking inward-facing cameras on drivers' faces, especially guys who live in their trucks?
It is in the almost 40 years now I've been involved in trucking. I'm a year or two short. In almost 40 years of trucking, is probably the worst idea I've ever seen. The worst. And we've been through lots of issues over all those years. This by far is the one that I can't think of a single exception where I would ever allow you to put a camera on me all day long. It's just not going to happen.
I really am happy to hear you say it. But I'm just going to force you devil's advocate. If you were running your own fleet, would you use them?
Hell no. Not no, but
okay.
Hell no. There is no way. So, and here's why. If I'm not willing to allow a camera on me all day, I'm not going to require somebody else to do it. That's just not going to happen.
Wow. That's just great. I got these inbred assholes at this company who are doing it, and I'm going to push back until I get fired. I'm not going to quit. But I really wish this was on a space because I'd like to hear what other guys are here and saying. Dude, when you got guys, obviously I don't have to tell you, that live in their trucks, they drive with their wives and their girlfriends. And even if they close the curtain, not that they should have to, but the fucking audio is going. When I curse someone out in traffic, which they richly deserve.
Exactly.
I got to be on video raging.
There's just, to me, I don't even want to talk about the details. It's just a hard no, and you will never change my mind. And I don't use words like never and always lightly. You will never change my mind about this topic. We don't need to go into the details. We don't need to go into the reasons. Nobody's putting a camera on me while I drive all day, so there's no way I would ever do that to somebody else. Here's something else that's interesting. When I was at NASC, one of the big programs at the NASTIC conference is the Fleet of the Year Award. 2 small fleets get an award for being really good at what they do, and the Driver of the Year Award, and there's like 20 of them. There's a lot, and then they pick a team captain. But these are, if I remember right, all of the drivers combined that were finalists in this. And when I'm there, a big part of what I do over that event is I spend time with these 20-some drivers of the year. I do an interview with them. I do a lunch with them. I spend a lot of time talking to them. I think, if I remember right, they had like 57 million accident-free miles combined. That's pretty impressive.
Wow.
Right. This is what one of the drivers said. He's still same driving job he started in 1988. The records of these drivers were just incredible. I got the chance to talk to them about every issue in trucking, just about. The one that surprised me, the one thing that I got almost no complaints about, almost across the board, everybody said they actually liked it. You know what it was?
What?
ELDs.
No, what? Oh.
And
they're fine with it? Yeah.
Not only are they fine with it, they do not want to go back to paper. They prefer it. They're not just fine with it, they prefer it. I across the board, I would say it was somewhere in the 80 to even 90% range. The comments about ELDs were all positive. Another one that surprised me. Almost 100% of the drivers who had used paid parking wanted more of it. They like it.
Okay.
We have a huge pushback on this whole paid parking thing, but the people who use it actually like it. Now, on this topic, inward-facing cameras, 100%. There was not a single exception. Nobody said they were okay with this. Nobody.
And yet the whatever, it doesn't matter if it's a fleet or a small company, they're doing it. And, like I said, I'm going to push back until I get fired, but I don't know if it's going to have any impact. I mean, I don't know if enough guys are going to do it. The guys I was talking to on the tribe, they were like, blah, blah, more or less get used to it. It's not that bad. It helps us as owner-operators prove. I couldn't believe it. I just, go ahead.
Outward now. I'm the exact opposite on outward-facing cameras. Put as many on the truck and trailer as you can fit. I'm fine with that. That does protect us from staged accidents and all kinds of things. But I am no way on an inward-facing camera. It's just not going to happen. In my book, there's no exception on this one. It's not going to happen. And I would be with you. I like your approach. I'm not going to quit, but every day I'm going to get in and put a piece of tape over that camera.
Thank you, because I really appreciate the support on it, because I've got a couple of tricks up my sleeve, and one of them is I just got a fucking, they sell like a ball cap. It's got a 5-inch bill on it instead of a regular one. So it comes with, you look like a circus clown, but it comes way down. And I found this like neck gaiter. It's lightweight, but it's a digital camo thing, and it's got faces embedded in it to deceive facial recognition. And so I'm waiting for them to tell me. Go ahead.
I'm going to point strobe lights at this thing. I'm going to do everything I can until they just get rid of it.
LEDs.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got reflective tape. I've got all the shit ready to go. And what was I going to say?
Now,
I forget. I have a. Go ahead.
A funny story, and I told this the other day. We're in this room, and there's probably like 8 tables of drivers. These are all drivers of the year. This is a luncheon just for the drivers of the year. And at each table, there's a non-driver of the year that's supposed to kind of get everybody talking and get their opinions. And I had a table. David Owen had a table. He was behind me. And when this topic came up, we're talking about it, and I'm standing up and I'm saying, not no, but hell no, no way. This is an issue I have no compromise on whatsoever. And David says, oh, Kevin, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I love these inward facing cameras. And
oh, really? Yeah.
I almost lost my mind. I'm like, David, we're going to fight. And he starts laughing and he says, Kevin, I love these cameras because every time a fleet puts these cameras in the trucks, our fleets get a bunch of their drivers.
Oh, wow. What a fucking take. Wow. That's very Dale Carnegie thinking there.
Wow. I wish somebody would have had a camera on me when he said it, because I almost came unglued, because the way he said it, he was totally serious about it. He's, Kevin, I don't know what you're thinking. I love these inward facing cameras. And I just about, So then he says, now he said, every time a fleet puts them in, I know our fleets are about to get a bunch of good drivers.
That's excellent. What a I mean, that's so brilliant. It reminds me of a story in the How to Win Friends and Influence People, the original edition, not the Snowflake edition. But there was, I don't know, it was a steel magnate. He was going through the steel mill. You know, he was in a suit and coat, and he had one of these guys that was smoking underneath the no smoking sign. And instead of firing the guy, he walked up to him, and this is probably like 1920, and he pulls a $1 cigar out of his pocket, and he gives it to the guy who's breaking the rules, and says, on your next break, smoke outside. And he won a friend, you know, and it was
right.
It was beautiful thinking.
Right.
But this truck I drive, it's just a straight truck, and it's a 2024 freight shaker, right? And it's the windshield, the windscreen. I'm in London all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Windshield is kind of it's small. It's like anyway. And it's got this giant electronic fungus built into the glass from the factory that probably has all the other shit that says if I'm hard braking or whatever I'm doing. And it really is bigger than the size of a license plate. And it's in the middle and the top. So if they put this camera underneath that, it's literally right in my line of sight. And it's a safety issue. Other than
I don't
that,
care where they do it.
They can put it up.
No,
but this is the thing. No, Kevin, I just got.
Oh, go ahead.
But if they put it anywhere else, the fucking sun visor is going to cover it when I pull it down to block out the sun.
Here's my take on this. I don't care about any of the details. I don't care if you get it out of my line of sight. I don't care how safe you think you're making it. None of that matters to me. You're not putting a camera on me all day. If you don't trust me, then you shouldn't hire me.
Exactly. And I've driven tens of thousands of miles for them, totally incident-free.
Here's what I'm actually okay with. I'm not completely against technology monitoring the driver. I just don't want it to be video cameras. There's no reason for that. I like I said, 2 of the vehicles that I own right now, occasionally I'll get a message on my dash saying, you know, you might want to pull over and take a break. You're showing signs of drowsiness. Well, they can't know that unless there's some sort of a sensor on me, and it probably is a camera of some sort watching my eyes. There are clear signs that when your eyes, when you get drowsy, I'm okay with that. In fact, I like that. And many times it tells me I'm drowsy, and I look at it and go, yeah, well, I'm really not. I know when I'm drowsy and when I'm not. But and here's why I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because of, one, the quality of our driver training sucks. And we're allowing an awful lot of people to drive vehicles that aren't really qualified, in my opinion. And we have allowed so many other distractions in the cab with messaging systems and phones and tablets and GPS and devices that are all trying to talk to each other, and your Wi-Fi grabs this device. Now you're screwing around with it because you know your Bluetooth headset isn't
It's like
connected
driving
anymore.
around, inside a fucking jukebox.
Well,
bang, this is snap, buzz. I'm like, fuck off! I'm trying to drive a truck.
That's
all this, and
because we've allowed all that technology that distracts the driver and makes them very unsafe.
Exactly.
I'm also okay with some technology, automatic braking systems. I'm not against these things. I think we need them because we have made vehicles very unsafe today. We've made them so much safer in one way. When you get in a crash, they're pretty incredible. The vehicle will be completely demolished and everybody walks away without a scratch. I mean, I think it's incredible what we've done as far as that goes. But we've made the
definitely.
driver so unsafe because of all the distractions, and we somehow have to fix that.
Yeah, they did. They just haven't figured out a way to replace the driver. In the meantime, they want to stuff as much of that shit in there as they can, and it distracts the hell out of you. And
yeah, it does.
You just it's like a fucking pinball machine inside that fucking truck. And if you're in a construction and you put. Go ahead.
And we've all seen the guy with his foot up on the dash watching a YouTube video, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We know it's happening.
Yeah. 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 It's so anyway. Yeah, I'm gonna push back until I get fired. And then I like the job, but I am ready for a change. I was thinking of looking into real estate. I don't know, selling it, but anyway, but thanks to you, I'm thankful that I can talk to you and everybody listening about it. I hope someone calls in and shares their experiences. But also, I'm also in a position that I could go probably 12 months without working and still live the same level I live at now because I've listened to you and I've changed a lot of things and I've got the money. And
excellent.
Anyway, I was gonna speak of the money. I don't know if you this Department of Government Efficiency, and Elon. I don't know if we can change gears for a second. And just for the purposes of this conversation, that people might not know, it's the stuff I'm learning. Bitcoin is a brand name. It's not. It's like Kmart or Ford or Kenworth. It's its own. So there's all kinds of those coins, and so anyway, it's called cryptocurrency.
Right. The term we're looking for in the big sense is cryptocurrency. There are a lot of cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is the most famous. So it becomes almost, it's, when we say Band-Aid, Band-Aid is a name brand. It's a bandage. It's an adhesive bandage. When we say Bitcoin, we're not talking about all cryptocurrency, although people use it that way. They shouldn't. Bitcoin is its own digital currency, and there are lots of them.
Right. And so I'm going to come full circle with that in a second. But it's like, well, the Bitcoin, it's the first one. It's the original, and I guess no one knows who created it. It's a mystery, literally. I think it was Elon Musk personally. But anyway, if you break a dollar, you get 100 pennies. If you break a Bitcoin, I might have the number wrong, but it's called Satoshis, and that's the name of the person or group of people who invented it. And anyway, the reason I bring it all up is because the Department of Government Efficiency is Doge or DOGE. There is a cryptocurrency they call a meme coin. So it's a level below a cryptocurrency, but it's still used as a currency. It's kind of confusing. I've been trying to learn it, but anyway,
confusing. Yeah.
I think it was everything right after the election. If you look at the charts on the flow of this month, like if you think of the currencies as stock, the charts show it spiking right after November 6th. And anyway, Doge, Elon Musk, he's big into it. He created that acronym. He's been a fan of Doge, the cryptocurrency, since before Doge, Department of Government Efficiency.
Right.
And so that's fueled a lot of speculation, and it's driving the price. I got into it early enough that if if it goes, I mean, it's definitely a penny stock. You know, it's not even a penny. I mean, now it is. But anyway, I know you don't like Bitcoin as a concept. I don't know if you're changing your mind on it. But
No,
if anybody has $50 or $100 to buy it, you know.
Well,
yeah.
So here's my take on this, but this is a confusing topic. So first off, we have to separate two big issues when it comes to cryptocurrencies of all kinds, Bitcoin, Doge, whatever they are. There's two big picture things that we need to separate. One is, will we use this as a transactional currency? Am I really going to use one of these coins or these currencies to buy stuff and sell stuff? Do I want to set up my warehouse to accept cryptocurrencies? And as of right now, I don't. I don't want to buy with it and I don't want to sell with it. I don't understand it enough. There's too much risk in there that I don't even want to.
You don't want to put
that.
in. You don't want to put in plugs so guys can plug their trucks in there either. But
that's one issue. That will we use
President
this
Trump
as a currency, and what does that even mean? That's a complicated issue. Currencies are not simple things to figure out, but that's one issue. The other big issue is, should you be investing in this as an investment? And I will tell you, for me, it's a hard no. And here's why. The way to be a good investor is to be able to spot patterns. And we have patterns in almost all of our investments, whether it's real estate, the stock market, collectibles, diamonds, gold, silver, artwork,
cars,
classic cars. We have decades or more of history to know how those investments respond to things. What happens to the price of classic cars during a recession? We know. We can look at the last 6 recessions and see what happened to them. Cryptocurrency, we have zero history. Not only is it a complicated financial instrument that nobody seems to really understand all that well, we have no history. So this is in my opinion, this is not investing. This is gambling at this point.
Exactly. So treat it like a lottery ticket, $10, $20, and just, I mean, it's not an investment. It's just a fun thing at this point, where one of them is like 0.00019. It's like 4 or 5 spaces to the right of the decimal. But you know, it's just out there. It's fun, but President Trump is very crypto friendly. Elon Musk is probably the king of it, and at his Boring Company, you can buy merchandise like a Boring Company hat and so forth. And with this particular Dogecoin that I invested in, and also at Twitter, he's going to be, for whatever you would do, like if you were going to subscribe for content, he's going to be accepting cryptocurrency. I want to say it's going to be Dogecoin.
Well, see,
it might not be in stone yet.
Here's part of the problem. The last thing I need is more complication in my life. Right now, I know that anything and everything on the planet that I want to buy, I can buy with $1 or I can buy it with my credit card. Anything and everything.
Yeah, Kevin, but you and I are old. You and I are old. There's young people. They're up and coming. They love this shit. This is an opportunity. You say nobody knows anything about it, but that's what makes it such a big opportunity. You know, you put $20 in and you wait 2 years and maybe you get 20,000 back or 2,000. I don't know. It's like a scratch ticket. That's all I'm saying. It's not an investment strategy, but people don't understand.
This is where we got to separate. See, I'm not talking about the investment side now. I was talking about the currency side. And I don't want my life more complicated. You just made a statement that at Elon's store, I can buy things with a Dogecoin. Well, what if I prefer Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever the hell all these other coins are? Now I have to start investing or buying or owning different kinds of coins because that's all this company accepts. Why? Why do I want to use this currency?
Well, because like I said, you and I were old. There are kids that are, whatever, teenagers, 20, 30, and they love this stuff. And it's some of them, when you a meme coin, it could be based on some kid's cartoon. They know
What does
about
that
this stuff.
mean?
It's up and coming, and it's just an opportunity. Just like
An opportunity for what?
maybe get
For what? What good does it do me to buy a Doge ball cap at Elon's store with cryptocurrency? How does that?
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, sorry, I misspoke. I was still thinking about the scratch ticket kind of a thing.
Correct. See,
But you're right.
that's
As a
why
business
there's
owner, why would you
two
want to use it?
totally different issues here, and people confuse them constantly. There's one that it is a usable currency to buy and sell things with, and then the other idea that it's an investment. Those are two completely different things. And even the people
Right.
who tell me they know about, oh, no, I understand crypto. Well, you don't. In this one conversation, we've mixed it up 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I mean, no, you're right. I sat down and I studied it, and I used Chat GPT. I got a lot of lessons. I wrote it down. I'm learning it because it's fascinating to me, and I think somehow President Trump is going to get a U.S. backed cryptocurrency, and he's really crypto friendly. But now, so speaking of presidents and money,
well,
I know you like the flat
let's take
tax.
a step back a second.
Go ahead.
Because again, I
Yeah.
am mostly ignorant about this topic. I've started to research it. The more I research it, the more I think, why do I even want to know about this? Let's go back to the currency, not the investment, using it as a currency. To me, it's like trying to travel across Europe when every country, and countries over there are about the size of our states, where every country had its own currency.
Yeah.
And now you have currency exchange rates. Well, that's what's going to happen here. If there's 20 different digital currencies being used, I'm holding Doge, but this company accepts Bitcoin. Now we have to convert. Who the hell wants that kind of complication?
Well, I think it's a matter of, it's like if, say, you had a bunch of automakers and then they compete and die off, and eventually you end up with Ford, Chevy, and Toyota. I mean, it's
even that's
I
too
see what
many.
you're saying. It's just
I don't want 2 currencies I have to deal with, much less 5 or 6. One is just fine. If somebody could tell me the advantage, nobody ever says that. Why do I want to do this? What's the advantage?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's all virtual.
What would be the advantage of having 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 digital currencies accounts? How is that going to make my life better?
I don't know about, like I say, you and I are old. I don't know. Yeah, but I will say this, that cryptocurrency can make our lives better. And there is an answer to having one currency, and that's decentralization, meaning the fucking Fed, goes out of existence, doesn't control our money, can't print trillions.
Well, stop
and
right
it's
there.
all decentralized.
Stop right there. We can eliminate the Fed without cryptocurrency. The two have nothing to do with each other. There's no reason we can't just eliminate the Fed and continue on with a dollar. We could go back to a gold standard. That's a whole different topic. But but we'll get rid of the Fed with cryptocurrency. Well, we could get rid of the Fed without it.
Okay. All right. Well, I didn't consider that, so I'm learning something. I just they've been a thumb in our eye since The Creature in Jekyll Island, which is what that's all about. And,
there's
it's
no doubt that the Fed, we should be doing something about the Fed, but I just try to get across to people the two have nothing to do with each other. In fact, it's almost worse. It's going to be like the Wild West with all these currencies if this starts to catch on. And I just don't. I'm just waiting for somebody to tell me what the advantage is.
Well, I'll be keeping an eye or an ear to the ground, and I'll call back and update you as I learn more. But but speaking of money, I know you like the flat tax, but what about running the country like was it McKinley did with tariffs instead of the flat tax?
That's what Trump's talking
to say
about.
Nothing of what we have now.
And
say again.
Well, that's what Trump's talking about now, replacing taxes with tariffs. I've done a couple short pieces on this. Taxes and tariffs are very, very, very similar. In fact, they can be used almost identically. I'm not against running the company on the country on tariffs and eliminating the income tax. I'm open to the idea, but we have to know more. What does that mean? Tariffs on what? This is not an easy thing. Here's what I would be for. I don't know why we're ignoring this. The fair tax has been around for about 30 some years now. It's not just an idea. It's a complete system. Everything has already been worked out. I don't know why. And in a sense, the fair tax is a lot like a tariff. It's a consumption tax. We could call it a tariff if you want. You could say, we're not putting a 20% sales tax on everything in the country. We're putting a 20% tariff on everything in the country. It's the same idea. But we need to know the details. I keep hearing people talk about the flat tax. Why are we talking about the flat tax when the fair tax is it's a complete system and it's better? But nobody understands it. A flat tax basically
even me, I think I said
is not simple.
I think I said flat tax, but I meant fair. Sorry. Yeah,
okay.
You're right. Yeah.
There's a big difference.
And I think the biggest difference is the yoke goes on people outside the country. You know, China to send their shit in here, they'll pay my income tax. You know, Mexico, they make cars, they want to make them there, they can pay it, and I won't be paying income tax and so forth. They'll pay it for me, or the fair tax or the flat tax.
This does get more complicated. Technically, the only way we really want to put tariffs on other products coming into our country, there's really only two reasons to do that. We should not do that. We should not try to fund our bills on outside money. The reason we would put a tariff on stuff coming into our country, there's two reasons. One, when you take a country like China, where the government subsidizes the industry so they can dump their products cheaply on our market. That's just not fair competition. We can't produce something in this country cheap enough to compete against China. We have a tough time anyway. If China's government subsidizes its industries, we're screwed. We're just going to end up with cheap Chinese junk in our market. So one of the ways around that is if we know the government is subsidizing industry, we can put a tariff on that industry and say, no, you're not going to dump it on our market cheap. We'll put a tariff on it so we can now compete with you. I'm all for that. The other way Trump has said he will use tariffs, which makes total sense, is if a country like China says, we're going to put a 5% tariff on all American cars coming into China. Well, then Trump says, okay, we're going to put a 5% tariff on all Chinese cars coming into the United States. That to me just seems logical.
Yeah.
Right. If they do it to us, we will do it to them. If they subsidize their industries, we will put a tariff on them. If you don't do either one of those things, if you don't subsidize your industries and you don't put a tariff on us, then we're not going to put one on you, and we shouldn't. That doesn't mean we can't use tariffs domestically, like a sales tax, a national sales tax, or we could call it a national tariff. It's really the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. How about, speaking of which, the $7,500, what did you just say, subsidy for Tesla is gone now, or is going away?
I hope
so. They have to compete without our money?
I hope so. I'm not in favor of any of those kind of You know what I just read? It was going to, let me see if I can go back to this. This was going to be one of my topics, but then we got off on other stuff. Here's the headline. Saldivar's Trucking becomes first U.S. independent owner-operator to use a Volvo VNR electric truck. That's the headline. So this article is about the first independent owner-operator using a Volvo electric truck. And it's in the ports.
He's hauling Doritos.
Well, no, it's in the ports in L.A. And the reason is because the ports are pushing this. They're making this mandatory. But here's the crazy thing. Listen to this. The company notes that Saldivar's Trucking was able to overcome. Oh, I got to go back a second. California Air Resource Board, Advanced Clean Fleet Rule. This is what we were talking about just this week in Oregon. This kind of stuff's happening too. Places zero emissions vehicle requirements on fleets of all sizes concerning new drayage trucks operating at California seaports or intermodal rail yards. These requirements present financial challenges for smaller operators, many of whom lack the upfront capital to make the transition to electrification. Now, listen to this. The company notes that Saldivar's Trucking was able to overcome this hurdle by securing $410,000 in funding from California.
Per unit or what?
One truck.
Wow.
They had
So,
they had to borrow or get a grant or whatever this is. I don't care what it is. It's wrong. This day cab tractor to use in the ports cost at least $410,000.
Yeah, that's California. I mean, they're the retarded stepchild. I mean, they're about to get bitch slapped. I think when President Trump takes over, they'll fall in line. They're not going to mandate. California mandate means something else on a Saturday night.
We talked about the new rule that starts in just about a month on January 1st of 2025 in 6 states. 6 states will put limits starting in January, all Class 8 vehicles down to Class 2B. Class 2B is I think that's a 3/4 ton pickup. They will have to start selling in January. 7% of the vehicles in that class have to be electric. They have to be electric. 7% of the sales. Problem is, the vehicles don't exist. There are no coaches, Class 8 coaches right now that I could buy that are electric. None. How do you sell 7% when
by 2025?
How do you sell 7% when the vehicles don't exist? They just don't exist. You can't sell 7%. There's nothing to sell.
And no one wants. Yeah. I get it. Yeah.
Where am I going to get? Because this applies to all vehicles in those classes. Where am I going to get an electric ambulance? Where am I going to get an electric
ambulance store?
Tow truck? Where am I going to get an electric RV? And if I could get the vehicle, Oregon has one supercharger, and the uptime on it is only about 50%. Thieves keep stealing all the copper wire out of it.
Well, that's okay. If it doesn't go over a certain amount of money, they're entitled to steal it, and you better shut up about it. And so, it's just the retarded stepchildren. It's California.
Yeah, how does it make any sense to? And I wish I knew all the details. How much of this $410,000 does this guy have to pay back? Because if he has to pay back all of it, he's screwed. You can't make any money like this.
Right.
And if he doesn't have to pay it back, then how is that right?
Exactly. Yeah, I told you, I don't expect you to remember, but I have a neighbor who bought a Tesla, and I think it was like a $52,000 car. She says, no, but I'll guess the numbers. I got a $7,500 subsidy, and I was like, just stop right there.
Yeah.
I paid for that shit.
Yeah,
so
right.
She's not paying it back. I said, go ahead.
No, you're right. It's just wrong how we're doing this, and it just continues to get worse.
Yeah. So I think, we're expecting in the next at least 15 years, I think I heard that the most prosperous America we've ever seen. And if you're going to compete, if you're going to be a part of that, you can't be California. You can't do that retarded stuff because it's literally retarded. It's as in unadvanced. It's just backwards, and it's so you'll have to go along to get along. And I think this will take care of itself.
What happens?
Only because President Trump.
So this whole program, all this money, $410,000, this is designed for fleets of less than 10 trucks so they can start buying these trucks. What are we going to do when the cost to operate these trucks is so astronomically high that these companies can't afford it? Do we have to subsidize them
I don't
again,
know.
or do we just let them go out of business?
You know, you and I would let them go out of business, but we wouldn't do it in the first place. I see what you're saying. It's just, it just doesn't make sense. I think it'll take care of itself. Like, I was going to say like boys and girls sports, but that probably wouldn't take care of itself in California.
No. So,
anyway,
and this is spreading. Like I said, this is now 6 states. Hey, Todd, I just looked at the clock and the board, and the calls are completely piled up on me here. So let's stick to. I'm going to stick to a topic here. We're going to go hear what Paul has to say about inward-facing cameras.
Howdy.
Hey there.
I got a couple of things quick first. So,
hey, you got to get closer to your phone. Sounds like you're a mile away.
I'm in Arkansas, sir. Elon Musk could have a new saying, "I'm extremely intelligent."
Hey,
but
Paul.
I'm also boring.
Paul, you got to get the volume up somehow, because if I can barely hear you, I know people in trucks right now can't hear you. Uh-oh. Well, he's gone. All right. Sorry, Paul. It was just too quiet. Let's go to California. Tom, what's on your mind?
Yeah. Hey, Kevin. Oh, what isn't? That guy was funny, man. I don't know. It's the Snowflake edition from Carnegie. That's pretty good.
That is a good
I like
one.
it. And I don't know if he was from Brooklyn or Boston, but somewhere where they use the F word as an adjective.
Boston, yeah. Yeah,
Is it Boston?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, New England.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's New England, yeah.
Somewhere in New England. Yeah. Yeah, they love that F word as an adjective up there. It's it's just part of the rugged. It's perfect. I say it. Don't get me wrong. You got me in trouble this weekend.
Yeah, it is. And I was
right
waiting,
now,
because when they get emotional, they might drop a wicked in here and there too.
Oh yeah, absolutely, right.
That phrase only seems to be used in New England, the way it's used. That it never really caught on anywhere else. But they've been saying that word for as long as I've known people in New England.
Oh, yeah, me too.
That was a wicked storm.
I love it.
I know.
It's just the way they say it too.
I know.
Because it won't work anywhere else.
It
really.
doesn't.
You know what I mean?
It's their own
you
thing.
Can't have a guy. You can't have a guy in the South. You can't have Paul say it and have it. You know what I mean? It doesn't have the same meaning.
It would never work for me because I don't have any accent at all.
Oh, you don't think you do?
That's why I said that. No, nobody claims to have an accent.
You go down to Paul land, and you're a funny talker.
Well, just a funny story about that. Last night I was watching. Well, no, it must have been the night before. The show OP Live, where they're with the police department live, and you're watching people do stupid stuff. I don't know why I'm so fascinated watching people do stupid stuff and get caught at it, but I am. They were standing around, and they're in one of their departments is in Louisiana, and it's rural Louisiana. And there's like 4 police officers standing around, a woman, a couple guys. Then there's a couple criminals but everybody's talking all at the same time. And there was like a 5-minute period where I looked over at Lisa and I said, "Did you understand anything anybody just said in the last 5 minutes?" I could not distinguish one word of what they were saying.
No, not one word. It's funny too because they do have the Creole they speak down there.
Oh, I don't know.
And I think that
that
breaks into a lot of words too.
I had no idea what they were saying.
But you just kept watching it though.
I
almost sent you a cool video you could have streamed to your phone called the Great Year. It's a good video with James Earl Jones did the narration. It's an older documentary, and it's very interesting.
Huh.
I'll send it to you anyway.
Yeah,
I'll send it to you anyway, even though you won't watch it.
I might.
I have a book recommendation too.
Which one? Refresh my
The Real Dr. Fauci.
The Real Dr. Fauci. Man, I have so many books I'm supposed to read right now.
No, you know it's the same one I've been bugging you to read for 3 years.
I know it is, but every time you tell me, I write it down again, just to be sure.
Oh, well,
I'm not. I think in the past
right.
I might have said I had this on my Kindle. I'm not sure if I do. I might have a different book. Like Henry just recommended that I read a book, and he said it's called Rickenbacker. Well, I did a search for Rickenbacker, and the first thing that comes up are books about guitars. I'm like, I don't think that's what he was talking about. So there's a lot of books with the word Rickenbacker in it. So I finally figured out which one it was, and it's not available on Kindle. I actually had to buy a physical book.
Well, you like that better anyway. Oh, it's not available on Kindle.
Yeah,
that's
it's not
odd.
available on Kindle.
Wonder why that would be. Because Kindle wanted their 25 cents a copy, and they didn't want to pay it.
It's some of the older books. I guess people just don't take the time to convert them over.
Yeah, well, with the AI, you think that'd be pretty easy. Hey, why don't you have a link on your app on your audio network app to the store?
Nowhere. There's no link. Huh. We should probably fix that.
I think it would be a good idea.
You
know what I mean? Because when you're driving down the road, you're doing the 3-hour show or whatever. Somebody thinks, "Oh yeah, I need to order brain octane." Instead of when they stop, they look it up, and then it's $1 cheaper on Amazon with free delivery. Then they get, you know what I mean? So with the lap, it's because that's what people do.
No, you're right.
I just made an order. I just made an order of your stuff that you have in the morning, and I got to the Cardio Miracle. I'm all like, well, geez, if I'm going to pay $90 for 30 days, why wouldn't I want to get 60 days for about 30 or something? It was like a great, much better deal. Then hell, why don't I get 90 days? That's way better deal. And then I'm like, well, but now I only have in my card 30 days of Mind Fuel. So then by the time I add it all up, I got to wait to get paid again. So yeah, that's a pain in the to get the best deal. And then I'm like, what? And then if I buy 5, I get 1 free. I'm like, oh, crikey.
Well, I just spent $600 on chuck roast. And the problem is, I expected it to get here last Tuesday or Wednesday, and here it is the following Monday, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get it today or not.
And for them, see, that's the problem that I'm having right now. Is that something's funny going on with this delivery? I picked up pinto beans. This is the reason I called originally. So I picked up pinto beans in Colorado, eastern Colorado, and I brought them over the mountains. And they loaded them, wouldn't let me on the dock, and they were strapped in with the cardboard, and they're bags with plastic bags inside of the bags, right? The big tote bags.
Yeah.
They're probably 2,500 pounds each. There are like 12 of them or whatever. And so the guy put them on pallets that were bigger than the bags themselves. And so he snuggled up the pallets together. But when I looked in there, it looked cool. So the last 3 tipped over a little bit, right? And so something funny is going on with this deal. So the guy he cut the seal and then said, no, we can't unload this. I said, well, it's got straps on the top. All you have to do is, no, we can't unload it. And I'm like, okay. Well, what would you have me do exactly? He said, you're gonna have to go somewhere and get them back on the pallets. And I said, oh, okay. Well, so that's a 3-hour deal. Found a place 15 miles away that was a rework place,
Yeah.
Went and got them put on the pallets. Got back, and the guy said, yeah, I think that first thing out of his mouth was like, yeah, I think they already filed a claim on this. And then he went in, and about a half hour later came out and said, yeah, we can't unload you because you didn't have a seal on it. And I said, well, bro, you're the one that took the seal off. Do you remember? He said, yeah, that was 3 hours ago, though.
What?
And I said, okay, well, this is what's going on. He said, well, we don't know if it was a hermetically sealed food quality place to lift those bags. Now, mind you, I got it from eastern Colorado. When the dust was blowing, I had to keep my windows up because the dust was blowing so bad. I mean, and right into this dirty ass pinto bean factory, right? So
right.
I'm like, okay, right. So now I've been sitting here, bro, since Friday at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Got here at 7:30 in the morning, and I'm still sitting there, and they're fighting over
Oh, you're kidding.
whether they're going to unload. No, whether they're going to unload me or not. And I don't know. I want your advice on this. Do I just drive this son of a bitch to Vegas, unload the truck, and look for a new job? I like that. I've been working with these guys for 8 years, 9 years, something like that. You know, they treat me pretty good. They give me miles, you know, and I bitch sometimes when, you know, I bitch when I have to come to California, and so they try to keep that at a minimum. But I've been here for 2 times in the last 10 days now, because I've been sitting here for 3. But so I'm sort of at my wit's end, you know. I'm like, well,
yeah, that's crazy.
You know, and I'll take 100% responsibility for not getting up there and making sure there was airbags between. But you know, you just figured it. And when I called the shipper, he said, "Yeah, we've been having that problem."
Oh, come
and I'm
on.
like,
then fix it.
Oh, wait a minute,
then
bro.
Fix it.
Right? Yeah.
You know,
because I got to tap my brakes. I got to tap my brakes going down the other side of the Eisenhower Tunnel. It's 35 down that hill, and this thing wants to go 187 miles an hour down that.
You know, I'm just wondering if what we're seeing, because I just complained about, you know, I should have. I just checked. That meat was dropped off on my doorstep 11 minutes ago. So when I do get off the air, I'll find out. But it's been in a box sitting in a warehouse for 8 days now.
With dry ice, or diesel does.
Yeah. So, but I just feel like we're seeing the effects of some of the stuff I talked about in that book. The End of the World is just the beginning. We're just seeing
that son of a bitch hasn't been right yet, though.
In quality across everything. Just everywhere. It just seems to be a thing now that it's hard to get anything done right anymore.
Well, now for them to have filed the claim an hour, you know, when they rejected me the first time, like immediately follow a claim on our insurance company. When the one guy told me to go get it fixed, you know, I just figured, you know, they're pinto beans. They're not. It's not
microchips.
Fish, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, these are not delicate items. This is not a big deal.
I wouldn't think, but it sure. So I'm wondering if some kind of scam between the shipper and this guy here to get you know what I mean? If something's not right about it, you know.
Who knows?
What should I do? Should I just sit here and wait and go nuts in here, or should I just quit this job? I mean, what are my options here, bro?
Doesn't sound like you have any good options.
No, well, Thanksgiving's coming up. I can deal with it after that, I guess.
Yeah.
Bitcoin became big because try to get your money out of China and Russia with all the shit they put on there. Bitcoin's the gold standard. The rest of them are sort of wishy-washy, and they can, and because Bitcoin only has 21 million coins that they're ever going to produce, so that's why it's so high. And it was the first, and it's the gold standard of crypto, and it always will be. And so you were saying, well, when you travel in Europe and you're going across every different country now it's called the EU, so they have the that one whatever they call it,
because we've had countries leave that, so that isn't. But here's the thing. So if Bitcoin is the gold standard, why would I own any of these others? For an investment,
you
possibly.
wouldn't. You shouldn't. No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. But you should have bought Bitcoin when it was at 21,000, like I told you a couple years ago. But you didn't.
Well, I also
it's like $98,000 right now. Well, I didn't buy one either because it was my last 18 grand. So I'm like, again, crap.
Here's the difference, and why this is confusing, and why I try to keep people thinking this. I could also say I should have bought Microsoft in 1978. I should have bought
Oh,
Apple in
no, I know, but
1976. I
yeah,
mean, I could go through every
I know.
stock that would have
Yeah,
made me
what,
a, a
coulda, shoulda.
multi-billionaire now if I would have bought them at the right. This is no different, except this is much, much more complicated as an investment because we know nothing about how it reacts in certain situations. We don't have any history. That's the investment side.
Well,
what about the money side? What about the financial side?
wait,
What if
what
Elon's store only accepts
who,
Doge? But you just told me Doge is
right?
just a wannabe. So now what am I going to do? Do I have to go get some Doge so I can buy some stuff from Elon? And then I'm going to have to go get Bitcoin to buy
No,
some
right.
stuff from you? And then I don't get it. As a currency, I don't get this. As an investment, I'm not at all
interested. As a currency, it doesn't work yet. No, as a currency, it doesn't work yet, and that's partially because of our Fed. But to call it a cryptocurrency is sort of a misnomer because you can't. Where can you spend it? I mean, some guys will take it. If I've seen people that'll accept Bitcoin for their house that they own outright. But if you go there and try to use Bitcoin to buy a house at closing, they're going to look at you like you have two heads.
Well, we've never tried. I've never tried to use my Apple stock to buy something with. It's an investment.
No, well, but your Apple stock's not called the Apple currency.
That's my point. That we call this a currency, except
right.
I was told 10 years ago I was going to be able to buy stuff with this.
Right, and you can't buy anything because it's regulations. And then once again, speaking about regulations with the Chevron deference, I looked that up. The government can't have can't just have regulations willy-nilly if they weren't if it's not an entity that was voted entity that was voted in. So like the Air Resources Board,
correct,
were those people
they should
voted
have no
into office in Oregon?
No, or not at the federal level. The EPA, they're all appointees. We don't get to vote on them.
Well, then the Supreme Court just said, "Then sorry about your luck. Go pound sand."
Kind of. I wish it were that simple, but you're on the right track.
Because nobody's fought it yet.
Right. Yeah. So we'll
That's
have to
the only
see.
reason.
Hey, I'm gonna move along. I got some calls I got to get to here. Let's go to Wyoming. Talon, welcome.
Morning, Kevin. So, you know how in most of Europe they have the euro that's just standard currency for everyone?
Yeah.
Why can't we do that here between Canada and the U.S.? Standardize the dollar.
Well, why can't we? There's no reason we can't. I mean, we could. You just have to see, is there really an advantage?
I think there would be. Lots of people traveling, then they get home and realize, like Canadians traveling down to the States and get home and realize that they're paying twice what they thought they were because of the exchange rate, and people don't understand that.
Well, but how does that change? How do we? So when we make the merger, how do we? Because the exchange rate changes constantly.
Yeah, if we had a standardized dollar, then it wouldn't be as much of an exchange rate. Then, it would just be things are cheaper in the States, and Canada gets rates like we do anyway.
Let's take your logic to its end conclusion, and we'll see why I don't agree with this. And I will see what you think. Sure, it'll make things simpler because, but I also travel to Mexico. So don't we need to include Mexico in on and this is what happened in Europe. We included all these countries, and then countries found out they didn't really like this anymore, and now they want out. So to take your idea to the next logical conclusion means we should just have a world currency.
Well, to me, it makes sense to have Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. because
hold on, because Mexico borders a bunch of other countries in the South. What about them?
America, leave them on their own.
Well, but why? What is your? If this is a better idea, why does it only work geographically in the way you want it to work?
Yeah, you do have a point. I wish things were a little different, but there's a lot of things that could be figured out to make it work better that I don't have.
Well, here's my take on this, because I can't explain all of this. This gets it's way above my head. But here's how I generalize this and think about this. The bigger the government becomes, the less control over it we have, and the worse things get. What I mean by that is, I was on my city council here. I can deal directly with the problems we're facing and either solve them or make them better. And that's pretty simple. Now, when I move up to the county level, it becomes a little more complicated. Now, all of a sudden, the people on the other side of the county have whole completely different issues than I do. So now that's just at the county. Now we move up to the state, and it really becomes crazy. Look at a state like Oregon. We are completely divided. We are blue over near the coast, solid blue, and yet 90% of the state is conservative. So now when we get to a state government, things get much, much more complicated now. Now look what happens when we get to a federal government of the U.S. size. Look at all the problems we face in our government, how cumbersome it gets and how much waste there is. And the bigger the government gets, the worse it becomes. I don't want world governments. I don't want a European Union. I don't want a North American Union with currencies and laws combined. I don't want that. I prefer handling things politically down at the smallest level possible. I don't want bigger and bigger governments or currencies or any of these things.
Yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from. I just think that, like, as far as currency, it would just simplify a lot of things. And
yeah, but
the Canadian and the U.S. thing.
That's how they take away our freedoms. They tell us it's going to make our life better, easier, simpler, and in reality, it doesn't. Everything gets more and more complicated, gets more and more expensive. We see more and more corruption. I see the opposite. Let's think about this. In reality, I can travel all over the world, and you know what I have in my pocket that makes this really simple?
Credit card.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't need to exchange any currency. I just use my credit card and they'll work it out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, that's all I had. So,
all right.
Have a good rest of your day.
Good stuff. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Minnesota. Brad, welcome.
Morning, Kevin.
What's on your mind today?
Did you get a NutriQ that Angie sent over?
I did. So I'm looking at it.
Do you have time to review it and give me some pointers before I possibly get into your coaching?
Yeah, let me get some history here. So is this the first NutriQ you've ever taken?
Yes.
And tell me about your diet and tell me about any changes you've made to your diet when you made them.
I started keto roughly 6 years ago. Mostly whatever you recommend, though. And I mean, I'm 6'3", started at 195 pounds, down 20, 25, depending on the day.
Okay.
So I thought I could eat more carbs, but I'm not entirely sure about that because I've had continuous glucose that say otherwise.
That's a good indicator. So what can happen? There's several things. One, I just don't think that human beings are all that carb tolerant, no matter what. I just don't believe we were ever meant to eat the kind of carbohydrates that are available in today's diet. If you go back to the hunter-gatherer world, you could not have consumed this many carbohydrates no matter how hard you tried. They didn't exist. So one of the things I just think we have to realize that the human body just isn't made to consume a lot of carbohydrates. So no matter how healthy, now I can say that I can eat more carbohydrates now, not gain any weight. I do tend to get either muscle or joint pain back at some point with too many carbohydrates. And that's after almost 10 years of doing this. And I do know I'm metabolically healthy. I've checked, fasting insulin. I just think that most of us as human beings are not meant to eat a lot of carbohydrates.
I'd agree with that. I feel better when I eat a heavy meat diet or just fasting.
That seems to be the case across the board, that we get our best results when people eat more animals and less plants. So I'm to the point now where I tell people the only plants you should have in your diet are the ones you really, really love and enjoy, and you're consuming them at a level that isn't harmful to your health.
Yep.
So
would you give me any recommendations for right now to kind of move forward with what I've got going on?
So without being able to dig deeper into the numbers behind the chart, that would be something I could do on the coaching program. I actually go through each individual question to see why these numbers are like they are. But here's what I'm looking at. I mean, you have nothing in the high priority category at all, which is what I would expect when somebody's been eating keto for 5 or 6 years. Nothing in the high priority. You have 3 things in the medium priority: immune system, male reproductive, and upper GI. Everything else is in the low category. If it's in the low category, I'm not even going to address it because it's just not worth it. There's not enough there. And remember, we're asking about symptoms here. So because I can't, this looks like a really good NutriQ to me. There's not much for me to go on here. We might work on some upper GI, maybe a little bit of digestion. What would you tell me is something you still want to improve physically? What about your health you think could be better? Or what about your health is still bothering you?
I called last Monday right after Brent was on, and I was having digestive issues and kind of thought it was a fat digestion issue.
My guess from the NutriQ, just the chart. Again, I'm not looking at the individual questions, but your medium priority is upper GI. Your liver and gallbladder, which are responsible for fat digestion, you're actually at 10. That's really low. Your upper GI is in the medium priority, and what we're talking about there really is stomach acid and potential gut microbiome. So if we were going to work on anything, I would work on strengthening your stomach acid. Now, that's just the first look at the chart. If I were to dig into the individual questions, I may see something different.
Okay. Gives me a place to start. I do eat fermented vegetables.
That can help. I mean, we still don't understand our microbiome all that well. I mean, we can have dysbiosis when somebody seems to be doing a lot of stuff. If we get some bad bacteria in, sometimes really hard to get rid of. I don't know if that's what's going on. All I was saying is when we talk about upper GI on this chart, upper GI really only includes the stomach and esophagus. So the 2 issues we could potentially have: weak stomach acid, that may be part of what you've got going on, and the other could be just some dysbiosis. We might have some bad gut bacteria, but we're not talking about like the large intestine here. We're talking about right in the stomach itself, where you may have some H. pylori. We can have a buildup of H. pylori. I'm just speculating because all I'm looking at is a chart that says you've got some upper GI issues.
That's entirely possible. It's been close to 20 years that the doctors told me I had that, and they wanted to put me on high doses of antibiotics, and I refused.
Good.
And
good, because it doesn't.
It got worse to some degree because of all the carbs and garbage that I ate. But
right.
Yeah, eating animal products helps considerably.
Yeah, so you could just keep doing what you're doing and just look at the plants that are in your diet and say, do I really need these? Do I really want these? What if I eat less plants, more animals? Do things get better? This may work itself out completely on its own. If there's some symptoms you want to go after, there's no way it would take more than a month. In the coaching program, we could probably knock it out in a month because honestly, everything looks pretty darn good.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to sign up for it next week after the holiday.
Yeah,
we'll taken care of.
Yeah, we'll do a deeper dive. I'll go in and look at each individual question, and we'll figure out what's going on. And we could make some improvement in digestion, and then probably some in the immune system as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. All right, let's go to Missouri. Gerald, welcome.
Hey, Kevin, how's it going today?
Good. What's on your mind today?
Well, a couple things. You've been talking about Donald Broughton, and you kind of intrigued me to listen to him, and I listened to some of his seminars, and he's very energetic. It kind of reminds you of Larry Wingate in a way.
Almost more like Anthony Robbins for me. But you're right. He's very dynamic on the stage. He's just great to watch and listen to, and his information is just so good.
10 to 15 years of a good economy. That's a big statement, but
yeah, that's nice to hear.
It is.
I hope he's right.
So he's talking about currency, and I say we just use gold. Just go back to using gold for the world currency. What do you think of that? That'd be simple. Don't got to print it.
So I can't say that I can get my head around this in a way that I feel even qualified to talk about it. I know that at one point our country was on the gold standard. And I think it was during Nixon. Is that right? I don't even really know the history. Did we go off the gold standard during Nixon? I think it might have been in the 60s sometime.
I think the 60s.
So I was really, really young. I've tried to get through the book, the Creature from Jekyll Island. It's not an easy book to understand at all.
Right.
So like I said, I'm not even qualified to talk about this. But here's one of the things I don't really understand. If we're tied to a gold standard and our dollar, we have to back up all of our currency with gold. So how does our economy grow if we run out of gold? I know that might be a really stupid question. That's how little I understand about this. Are we really tied? Can our economy grow, and do we always have to hold that much gold? Because that's the way I understand it. For all the currency that's available in our country, we have to have enough gold to back it up. But I'm not sure I really understand that.
Kind of weird. You hear these commercials about investing gold, like if the market crashes or whatever. I wonder how that gold would do you any good if the banks crash.
Well, so here's I have been very, very against investing in precious metals forever. And it's because when I hear people why they do it, well, I invest in gold because it's a hedge against inflation. Well, okay, we just went through crazy couple of years inflation. Did gold help anybody? I don't think so. So when you say it's a hedge against inflation, well, we just went through inflation. What good did the gold you're holding as an investment, what good did it do? Nothing that I see.
Yeah.
It's not like you could go out
No.
and start buying stuff with gold because the dollar was weak. That doesn't happen.
Right.
Well, then the argument is, oh, but when the economy does really bad because of inflation, then the price of gold will go up. Well, okay, maybe, because it doesn't always. But what are you going to do with it? Are you going to sell your gold then? Because my investments are all long term. So I'm not buying and selling because the market's going up and down. Then I heard, well, if Kevin, you say you want to be prepared for everything. If the economy totally crashes and the banks are gone and we're going to need gold. Well, wait a minute. Why? What am I going to do with gold? You think I'm going to carry a gold coin over to my neighbor and try to buy some milk? How that's
right.
Why don't I just, instead of hoarding gold, why don't I hoard the things I'm going to need if the total economy crashes?
Yeah, like a barter system where we
Correct.
barter. You remember that?
Right, because that's all the goal is just going to make things more complicated. And if the world's in that bad of shape, I just don't see myself out trying to buy stuff with gold. Hopefully, if the world's in that bad of shape, I already have what I need. So I've never understood. Yeah. And here, gold and silver are kind of like Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. When I ask the people that are telling me why I should be investing in these things, when I really ask them, tell me how that's going to work in the real world. Like right now, I was told 10 years ago, you're going to be able to buy stuff with cryptocurrency. Well, no, I'm not. And even when I can, why do I want to? It doesn't seem to make any sense to me to buy with cryptocurrency, because I just bought something with cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency just went up 30% today or whatever. Well, I got screwed. Why did I spend my cryptocurrency yesterday? So the idea that it's both an investment and a currency, I think, is really dangerous. People don't know how to separate the two. And gold is similar. It's an investment, but technically it could be a currency. I could buy things with gold coins. It's about as easy as it is to buy something with Bitcoin, and I don't get it. So I don't know. I don't understand the currency side enough to explain it to anybody, because I don't understand it. And I don't like these things for investments. So what's left? For me, I just ignore them all.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah, just use your credit card and there you go.
Yeah,
it's simple and easy.
I have been asking. Look, I am too ignorant about this topic to talk about it logically. And I ask people, if you understand it, and you must understand it because you're pushing it on me and telling me I should understand it, please explain it to me. Except nobody can.
Right.
Just like nobody's ever been able to explain to me, why should I be holding a bunch of gold coins?
Yeah, I never heard that explanation either.
Yeah, just doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh, did you hear over the weekend Elon Musk? There was a meme of joking of maybe buying MSNBC.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's joking
Trump
or not.
Jr.
Yeah,
I know. He's like, how much is it?
Right. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Get your own TV show on there.
He's joking at all. Yeah, it's we'll see. He may just buy MSNBC. I don't know.
Yep. Well, Kevin, I guess that's all I got, my man. But have a good Thanksgiving, you and all the tribe. Everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Talk to you next week.
You too. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Minnesota. Matt, welcome.
Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning. What's on your mind today?
We'll stick with the whole currency thing at first, and
okay,
I'm 100% in alignment with you. To me, Bitcoin, gold, all those are already world currencies.
Right.
So we already have them. I don't see a difference between any of them.
I don't either.
Base the value of a dollar. Well, that's the wrong way to say it, so I won't say it.
It's hard to talk about this.
I'll confuse everybody.
Right.
Yeah. But a Canadian dollar versus a U.S. dollar is based on our economy.
Correct.
That's why there will always be a difference.
Right.
So right now, today, Canada would absolutely love if we combined.
Of course.
But there was a time back in the either late 70s or early 80s where the Canadian dollar was ahead of the U.S. dollar.
Right. Well, here's
Not
something
by much, but I mean,
here's something I don't even
close.
understand. Let's say for whatever reason we were going to combine those two currencies because we have a big border, I guess, is why we would even talk about it. Well, if we were to combine them today, what happens? I mean, you can't give every Canadian a full American dollar for every Canadian dollar. You'd have to do it at the exchange rate, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I have no idea how you would implement it.
Right. I don't know how that works. I guess well, I would have to believe if it's going to happen, the Canadian dollar is going to disappear. It's going to be the American dollar. I mean, we're 10 times bigger than they are. It's going to be the American dollar. So all we would be doing is Canadians would have to turn in all of their Canadian money, and they would get at that moment. This is what's so weird about this. At that moment, they would get what they were due in American dollars, which is going to be a lot less numbers wise. But then what happens? I mean, now there's no exchange rate left anymore, but I don't see what it improves.
Yeah, all kinds of prices need to adjust, and I mean, there's a lot of things have to change to make that happen.
And it seems to me
now,
like
if they were very close in value, then we could just do it and not worry about it, because if you're talking less than a 1% difference, it just gets absorbed.
What's the advantage? That's what I keep coming back to. Why would we want to do this? It seems to me like it just makes the system actually more complicated, not simpler.
Well, because then the next thing that makes it even more complicated, the whole tax system.
There you go. That's right.
That affects the dollar on its own. And
Right. So what you end up with, you can't just combine currencies. What you end up with is like the European Union. You have to combine a lot of stuff. You can't just combine currencies.
That's why everybody says Europe. They're all so similar. There's not and I'm not an expert on Europe, so
me either.
I don't want anybody to take this for set in stone in the way it actually is, but their governments are all very intertwined. I mean, they're all still separate, but
they
what
think
one
alike.
does affects the other
Well,
way more than what
and they
Canada
think
does,
alike.
and what we do to affect each other.
Right. Europe, the better way to think about Europe, and it's not exactly right, but it's a better way. Europe, their countries are kind of like our states.
Yep.
Our states don't do everything exactly the same. We have some very, very different policies in different states, and that's kind of the way they are with countries, and they're about the same size. Many of their countries, we have states that are bigger than most of their countries.
Yeah, and that's interesting when you go into like World War II history, and even Japan. They were a world dominance, and here the whole country's just slightly bigger than California.
Yeah. They're not very big at all.
Overrun China and all of the South Pacific. It's kind of blows your mind today on how that could even happen.
Yeah, you're right.
But so one advantage I have heard for Bitcoin is like the migrant workers. They're taking their cash, their paycheck, and converting it to Bitcoin, and then they can send that back to their home country, to their family. There's way less transaction fees than actually trying to do currency conversions.
Huh. But then what do they do with it?
Simpler. Well, then they convert it to their home currency and withdraw it from the bank.
But it's also really volatile.
I don't understand it. Yes. So there's a risk there too, but
huge
I don't
risk.
know how fast you could do it. If you change it to Bitcoin in and out in the morning and send it over, and before the afternoon they've got it changed to their own currency. But
Matt, you get this. You've owned stocks. Imagine trying to use your stocks as currency.
I think that was a perfect example you gave, because that's where
insane.
people are making the mistake.
Right.
Bitcoin should never be stated as an investment, unless you want to state investing in the U.S. dollar as an investment, the Japanese yen as an investment.
Well, that brings up a good point. I can trade in currencies. I don't recommend it because it's about 10 times more complicated than stocks. And I tell people you should not be investing in individual stocks because you're not smart enough. And neither am I. That's not an insult. I don't have enough time to invest wisely in individual stocks. That's why we talk about mutual funds, takes all the risk out of it. If we go from stocks to currencies, currencies are even more volatile and more risky, and you better know more about what you're doing. Now we go to a currency that hasn't existed in history, and people are like all over it. Like, oh, I can't believe you're not talking about Bitcoin. You should have bought Bitcoin 6 months ago. Well, yeah, I should have bought Apple in 1976 too, but I didn't. Because nobody knew you should have bought Apple then. You didn't tell me I should have bought crypto then. So there's just so many reasons where I prefer not even to think about this stuff. And somebody's going to go, oh, yeah, but I know my brother-in-law became a millionaire. Well, yeah, people win the lottery too, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Apple, you could have just bought that in the mid-'90s.
True. Right. Yeah.
The early 90s. What it's done since then is astronomical.
Well,
if you could go all the way back to the beginning.
Towards the late 90s, you're right. They were a couple of days away from bankruptcy during the 90s, and Microsoft actually bailed them out.
No.
Microsoft was the one that saved Apple, which is kind of crazy. But this whole idea of investing in things we absolutely don't understand is always a problem. But when we combine this one is a bigger problem because it is a currency and an investment at the same time, and people can't seem to separate the two. But again, I'll go back to, there's no way I want to try buying stuff with the value of my stocks. That would make me insane.
And you were correct on gold. It was Nixon and I don't remember the year.
That took us off the gold standard.
That was a very volatile thing too, because I think there were some big high-end investors back then that just figured, that night he made that announcement that the stock market would crash and all that, and I think it did the first day.
Yeah.
But then it rallied after that. So there were a lot of people that sold stuff and sold out, got out of the stock market thinking it's going to be a disaster, and stock market did the opposite of what all the experts thought.
Right.
So,
yeah, the big issue here is when I ask people to explain this stuff to me, they can't. Well, if you can't explain it, you probably shouldn't be investing in it. And like I said, I don't even consider, at this point, I consider it more gambling than investing.
Yep. And because it is volatile and somebody wanted to play with it as play money, on the side,
somebody's going to hit it big.
I could care less.
Right. Somebody's going to hit it big. What, you listen to Dave Ramsey quite a bit.
I'm guessing you have. Okay, go ahead.
Well, now finish yours and then I'll come back to Dave Ramsey.
I'm guessing you have the same amount of Bitcoin as I do.
Exactly.
The same amount that Warren Buffett has.
Right. I'm positive that you and I have the same amount. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So has Dave Ramsey talked much about this? What are his thoughts?
Same thing. It's your example of it, comparing it to gold. It's the same thing. Yes, you can use it as an investment. Yes, you could use it as a currency, but nobody does.
Right.
Nobody goes in and buys property with gold bars.
Right.
There's no law stopping you from doing that, but name one person, anybody listening to this, call in and name one person that's done it.
Right.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard all kinds of weird stuff like, oh, but a true digital currency, we get the government out of the mix. Well, there's no guarantee of that. The government can just come in and regulate it.
You know, and they can tax it too.
Yeah, and they will. Why do we think that this government? We need to get control of the government, because if we don't, they'll just take over and they'll put whatever regulations they want on digital currencies.
No. And yeah, like you were talking earlier, a tariff is just a tax.
Right.
And it's funny how the left now hates the tariff idea because, oh my God, that's going to cause inflation. We, the poor, our prices are going to go up. But yet, anytime the union wants to increase corporate taxes or union wages,
yeah, same
that
thing.
money's not going to affect us, is it?
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I don't see the difference in the argument. A tax is a tax, and yes, we the people pay that tax.
Well, and now the left on social media is running around. You're being hoodwinked. They're lying to you. China's not going to pay these tariffs. You're going to have to pay these tariffs. Nobody's lying about that. Yeah, we would pay the tariff. We've tried to explain why. There's two reasons why we would put tariffs on other countries. And as far as I can tell, those are the only two reasons Trump is talking about. He's not talking about just putting tariffs on random countries because he thinks it's going to raise money. That's not the point of these tariffs. The point of these tariffs are the exact two things I described. China subsidizes its industries and dumps cheap products on our market. And we need to stop that. And the way to stop it is you put a tariff on it. Will the American people pay that? Absolutely. The Chinese products are going to get more expensive in our country. Maybe you'll go buy an American product instead. That's the point.
But I don't know that I don't listen to regular news and certainly not network news. But Trump has said he wants to replace some of the income tax
with tariffs. Now that's a whole
different. So if he can raise enough money in tariffs, we can drop the income tax.
Correct.
Which now makes the American products cheaper again.
Correct. And
I believe a little bit of the same effect as the fair tax, but in a totally different
I'm not
way of doing it. But
I'm not sure why the sales tax part of the fair tax isn't that just a tariff?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The words are almost interchangeable, tariff and tax. And we have to remember, we have to fund our government. I'm all for shrinking it so we don't have to fund it as much, but we're always going to have to pay for a government. All we're talking about is what is the most efficient way to fund a government. And I don't know what the most efficient way is, but I can tell you what the least efficient way is. And it's our current income tax system.
And that's what Trump has pointed out is back in the late 1800s, I think it was under McKinley, we didn't have the income tax.
No. Not at all.
The federal one we had till 1913.
Right.
So we're talking before that, the majority of the federal income came from tariffs.
Correct.
And that's the model Trump is trying to get back to.
And I agree with him.
It's not like he's even proposing something new.
That's right. It's
going back to the way it used to be.
And I think it was better.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with this. So there's the tariffs he's going to use to replace the income tax system, hopefully, are all domestic. I don't believe we should try to put a tariff on another country to pay our bills here. I think that's a mistake. The two reasons to put tariffs on other countries are exactly what he's saying. One, if you're going to subsidize your industries, we're going to put a tariff on you. Two, if you put a tariff on us, we're going to put a tariff on you. Equal. I get it. That's two good reasons to put tariffs on other countries. Now you can look at how we fund our government. We can put tariffs on all kinds of things. If we just want to be weird about this so we understand, we could put a tariff that says we're going to fund our country on a mileage tax for all vehicles. When you drive a certain number of miles, we're going to make you pay a certain amount of money, and we're going to use that to fund our entire government. Is there any reason we couldn't do that?
No.
No, that's an
No reason
option.
at all.
It's an option. We can put a tariff or a tax on anything.
Here's how goofy some of these tariffs get, and we'll stay close with our neighbors to the north. And I don't know if this is still true. This was many years ago I read this. Do you know that we don't sell hardly any dairy products into Canada?
I wasn't aware of that.
There's a 249% tariff on dairy products going into Canada.
Why? Well, I guess if we go back,
their own dairy industry.
The Canadians are trying to protect their own dairy industry. That would be the idea behind that, right?
Yep. That is the reason, or what? Like I say, I don't know if that's still true, but at one point in time, it was astronomically high like that.
Yeah, I can see that. So tariffs themselves, it's not a bad word. Just interchange it with taxes. There's lots of taxes we don't like either, but we do have to remember we have to fund our government. It would be nice if we could come up with a really efficient way to fund our government, and our current system sucks. The IRS does not need to exist.
Yeah. So with inflation, the government changes limits on things every year. So they've released 2025 limits on retirement accounts.
Oh, okay. What do we got?
And so the first one that I guess concerns probably the most people is the IRA. There are no changes there. That $7,000 limit stays the same, and then you get the extra $1,000 if you're over the age of 50. And I forgot to. On the 401k, 403bs, a couple other ones, the business style retirement accounts, you are getting an extra $500 there for the year, which was $23,000, now goes up to $23,500. That's what you can put in out of your paycheck,
right?
Out of your salary. But and then the catch up on that one was 7,000 or 7,500.
7,000, I think.
Added something new.
Okay.
Regardless, there's a catch up there for over age 50. Well, now they're adding, I don't know if they're calling it a super catch up or what it is, but at age 60, you can add even more yet.
Oh. I haven't seen that.
Total for all of it, is going to be $11,250 for 2025. So you're getting another $4,700 or something like that.
Okay.
But what's weird, it's listed as individuals who obtain the age 60, 61, 62, or 63. That's it. So if you turn age 60 in 2025 or are no more than 63, you can do this extra investment. I don't know why they did, maybe.
Hey, Matt.
Because they figure you get into retirement.
This is kind of points out what I mean by we need to fund our government, but we need a much easier system. Just retirement accounts alone. When we talk about all the different types, 401k, 403b, a KEO, a SEP, a Roth, a simple, we could go on and on and on about all the different kinds of accounts. And the only difference in all these accounts is all the tax rules. Who apply it's so overly complicated. And now what are we doing? We're making it even more complicated. If we go to a better way of funding our government, like a fair tax, retirement accounts go away completely. They're not necessary.
Yeah.
None of these, we wouldn't have all these complicated rules. We wouldn't have all these complicated accounts. We wouldn't be making them more complicated right now. If we had a fair tax, you would just put money wherever you wanted and there would be no tax to protect it from.
Yeah, which I do like. There's some way the government incentivizes is investing in retirement savings.
Well,
but
wait.
The fact that it's tied to the tax code is what.
And it's overly complicated, and we know that most people don't take advantage of it. Yep. Most people are not retiring with $1 million in their retirement accounts. That they're not contributing. They wait too long. When an emergency comes up, they take money out. The system is not working. We did not create a bunch of independently wealthy people at retirement the way we should have. So let's at least simplify it. I mean, let's get rid of all this crazy complication, and just say, doesn't the fair tax in and of itself incentivize saving?
Yes, because you only pay tax when you spend money.
And we all hate paying taxes.
So if you don't spend money, you don't pay tax.
Right. So now I actually have a choice. I can go earn as much money as I want. Earning money stimulates our economy, but I don't have to spend mine. I can save mine if I want, not pay tax. And we could forget about 401ks and SEPs and IRAs and Roths and Keos and which rule and what's the new, all that just goes away.
Yeah, and I think the number is way worse. You use nobody retires with $1 million, or very few people do.
Yeah.
I think the average is 66,000 for some reason. That number.
Yeah, you're probably right, which is just pathetic.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, I gotta.
That doesn't.
Yeah, we're over time. I got to grab 2 more calls. Before I do, one of the guys I follow on Fuel Mileage just sent me something interesting. He sent me a picture of his dash on a new truck, and I'm looking at it's. He's producing 28.5 volts.
That's going to cause a problem.
Not in this truck. The new trucks now have. Yeah, remember? That's right. We now have 24 and 48 volt systems now.
Yep, and I don't think anybody realizes how big of an advantage that is.
I didn't understand it till I started. Yeah, we should talk about that on a Friday someday.
Yep.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. You have a good Thanksgiving.
You too. Take care. Let's. Oh no! I just hung up on myself. I have to reconnect.
Ready to connect. Click connect to show now. You are connected as the host. Welcome, host. You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the Call-in Studio web interface. Audio recording is on.
All right, I'm back, and I've got Kevin from New York. Kevin, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, how's it going? First of all, I'd like to welcome you to the modern world after he embraced the 24-volt system. We've only had it in Europe since, I don't know, like the 1970s. So it'll definitely help things, especially with the emissions side of things with the trucks.
Yeah, I've talked about this over the years, and Joel does the same thing. I know Henry's done it. We've all watched Europe. We've learned a lot about fuel economy from Europe. And this is one more area where we're just way behind.
Yeah. But that's, again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of attitude. But that Canadian guy that was on about the one currency,
yeah,
it's funny how they start talking about that now when Trump was going back into office. They weren't talking about that for the last 4 years, though, when Biden was in office. Yeah, funny, but I wouldn't recommend it myself, because I was in Europe in the changeover when we went from the Irish pound to the euro.
Right.
And it was a disaster.
Well, it has
because
to be. Right.
It's meant to be like a level playing field, but when we were driving trucks out of Ireland down into Spain, we always fueled in Spain because fuel is cheaper down there.
Right.
You'd think if it was a level playing field, we'd be completely even everywhere. We got to the point with us, we actually put belly tanks into the fridge trailers, the reefer trailers, and we'd load up another 1,000 liters down there.
Well, here's another example. I mean, we have one government in the United States. Technically, we have one government, one currency, but look at what happens with fuel prices here.
Yeah.
We have wild differences
it's
because the states are allowed to tax the fuel any way they want.
yeah, and that's the way it was down in Spain. It
Right.
was really cheap down there. You got up into England, like, because they went with the euro for a while, they're gone from it now, but you would not dare fuel, because at the time when I was driving over there, we were about the equivalent of like $7 a gallon diesel.
Yeah.
But
Well,
if you went to England, you'd be at close to $11 a gallon.
oh man. Well,
Yeah.
here
And
I think
again,
as humans, I think we seek out simplification. So when we look at a system, let's use US and Canada, when we look at the system, we go, well, why do we have two different dollars? It just complicates things. Let's make it simple. I get the desire to do that. But if you look historically with governments, the bigger they get, the more complicated they get, and the more corruption you will create. The United States government is big enough on its own. The last thing we need to do is start combining with another country.
and it was with insurance. In Europe, you have to insure your truck in the country of origin, like where you're based out of.
Yeah.
So a lot of companies moved their whole operations to Lithuania and Estonia and places like that because they got cheaper insurance.
Yeah, right.
And all they had to do was just get those number plates, the registration plates. But as for tariffs, I used to bring fish from Ireland down to Switzerland. And when you went into Switzerland with a load, you had to pay a fee, like a tariff, to bring that load into Switzerland. You had to clear customs.
Right.
And also you had to pay a mileage tax for every mile that you drove in Switzerland. And they had no, negative effects from it.
Right.
Like the amount of stuff that we brought into Switzerland, like everyone goes on, if we put tariffs in China and all these places, it's going to affect us. It's not going to affect you. It's going to affect you if you want to buy these products. But if you want to buy something that's made in this country, it's not going to affect you.
And you get this, what I try to explain to other people, you can't just say, oh my God, he's going to put a tariff on something, it's good or bad. Well, no, it's not good or bad. You have to know the specifics of each tariff and why it's being done. There are absolute good reasons for using tariffs. There are some really bad reasons for using tariffs. So when these people run around and they're making these claims, oh my God, Trump's going to use tariffs for this, that, they don't even know what they're talking about.
I mean, Switzerland, the amount of stuff we brought in there, and there was all these other guys bringing stuff in there, they didn't suffer for, and they were making us pay tax to bring a product into their country.
Right.
They didn't suffer from it. In fact, they were doing better. They were doing the best, and they weren't in the European Union. They stayed out. They kept the Swiss franc.
Right. Yeah. So
no, it's this whole one currency thing. Like it's not going to work because we used to bring Kerrygold butter from Ireland down to Spain. A block of Kerrygold butter in Ireland was about €4, and down in Spain I could get it for about €2.10. So you explain to me how I can
totally
truck something the whole way down and get it cheaper.
Yeah, that seems totally backwards. But that's part of the problem is economics become really, really complicated. And I try to admit all the time, I don't understand all of this. I have somewhat of an understanding. All right, let's grab the final call today. We're going to go to Florida. Merrick, you get the last word.
Hi, Kevin. See, just because you were talking about Bitcoin and crypto, I got a story for you.
Okay.
It might be another joke about stupid Polacks.
Okay.
But it's my story.
Got it.
So before either email or there must be advertised. I don't really remember how I get it, but I get that digital wallet, Bitcoin digital wallet. So and they were asking for minimum $50. I have no clue what it was. Like nobody knew that. Bitcoin wasn't the thing. They weren't even. Nobody were even talking about it. So I just kind of couldn't understand the explanation in that email or whatever advertisement, but I said, fuck it, I'm gonna put that $50 in.
Okay.
So I did, and you have to get your account and everything, so with the password and everything. And so I did, and I wrote down the password and login. And also on my old laptop, I saved the thing. But after after a few years, I don't know. It was like when Bitcoin really started, and I forget about it.
They're right.
I forget about it, completely. And then I receive email once the Bitcoin start to, really hitting the big money. I receive email that I have, I don't remember, a few days or a week to log into my account and either, prove that that's me,
right,
or it's lost. So I was going crazy.
I'll bet.
Like where is I couldn't even remember login or password or anything. So I couldn't log in. So I lost probably millions.
See, I've heard stories like this. I remember reading a story about somebody who was about to lose $1 billion because they couldn't figure out their password.
Yes, that's what happened to me.
That's a little too volatile for me. Come on, there's got to be a better system than that.
Right.
Yeah, there's
it was just I didn't know there was a lot of
Well, here's what's happening.
I'm known by I said $50. I can put $50. Whatever.
Well, right. And here's what's going to happen. It's already happening. It's going to happen more. You will hear about the people who put in $50 and ended up with 200,000. You're going to hear all those stories.
Yeah.
What you won't hear, for every one of those, there's about 1,000 people who put money in and lost their ass. Nobody ever tells those stories. Nobody walks around bragging about the fact that they were an idiot and they lost a bunch of money, but everybody brags about their wins. And now with social media, now people see this more and more and more. And it's no different than these apps. I've talked about the apps, Robinhood, and those apps that allow people to invest in individual stocks. I've said those are a really bad idea too. All right, we're going to wrap this up today. We are way over time. I've got to get out of here. I've got a lot going on today. So we will see you back here tomorrow for the Power Hour. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.